Good evening. I would like to call to order the Keizer City Council in regular session. It is Monday, March 17th, 2025, and ask our city recorder to please call roll.
Councilor Parsons?
Here.
Councilor Kohler?
Here.
Councilor Cross?
Here.
Mayor Clark?
Here.
Council President Starr?
Here.
Councilor Christopher?
Here.
Councilor Duran?
Here.
Youth Councilor Letty Farrar?
Youth Councilor is excused for this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. If you are able, I invite you to rise and all join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Tonight, under special orders of business, it's my pleasure to issue the proclamation for Women's History Month. With us tonight is, did I miss something? Okay. Is Ashley Dunn, a dedicated mother, student, educator, and advocate. Within the Salem and with the NAACP, she has served as the Youth Development Chair and now leads as the Vice President. She is advisor for the Oregon Youth Authority's African American Advisory Council and a former board member of Be Black. Ashley is also an active committee member of the Mid-Willamette Valley Homeless Alliance's Youth and Young Adult Advisory Subcommittee, a member of the CVRI Community Task Force, and a co-founder of SCOPE, Salem Keizer Coalition for Parents for Equity. In addition to her advocacy work, Ashley is a full-time student at Portland State University, excelling with a 4.0 GPA. Way to rock it, as she pursues her master's in social work with the goal of becoming a licensed clinical social worker. Her drive, intellect, and unwavering commitment to equity make her a force for change. This is from Jane Tichnell. She said, I first met Ashley when I had the privilege of being her youngest son's preschool teacher. Since then, I have watched her grow into an extraordinary mother, leader, and role model. She is resilient in the face of challenges, radiates light and compassion, and carries a wisdom and determination that inspire those around her. Ashley is making a difference to better shape our community. So I would like to invite you up to the microphone here, make sure the red light is on, and to do a presentation for Women's History Month, after which I will read the proclamation and invite all of our women leaders here to join us for a photograph. Ms. Duda, Ms. Dunn.
It's an honor to be here today to reflect on the monumental contributions women have made throughout history and to highlight how organizations like the NAACP have played a crucial role in shaping the fight for equity. As we celebrate Women's History Month, we recognize the achievements and the ongoing struggles of women, especially those who have stood at the forefront of social change and justice. Throughout history, women have always been trailblazers, from suffragists demanding the right to vote to activists fighting for civil rights. Women have played pivotal roles in the movements for freedom and equality. Their contributions are often overlooked or overshadowed, so it's vital that we take time to acknowledge and celebrate them, both today and every day. One key organization that's been integral to the fight for the justice of all Americans and all marginalized people is the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, or the NAACP. Founded in 1909, the NAACP has been a driving force for the civil rights movement, but what is often forgotten is how many women, both behind the scenes and at the front lines, are essential to that work. We cannot talk about the NAACP without acknowledging the incredible women who made an impact within the organization. Women like Ida B. Wells and Mary White Ovington fought tirelessly to bring attention to the realities faced by African Americans and champion for social justice and equality. These women were not alone in their efforts. Countless others like Ella Baker, Septima Clark, and Fannie Lou Hamer fought for racial and gender equality, and their contributions continue to inspire us all. Ella Baker, for example, was a powerful voice within the NAACP, believing strongly in grassroots organizing and emphasized the importance of collective leadership. She worked tirelessly to empower young people and communities and became active in the civil rights movement, teaching them that true change happens when everyone has a voice. It is because of the work of women like Ella Baker and countless others that I can stand before you today to continue to advocate for the members of my community and for the young people of Keizer. The work of the NAACP has been about more than legal battles or political victories. It's been about people. It's about families and communities and individuals who refuse to accept the status quo. The NAACP's legal victories, such as Brown versus the Board of Education, which struck down racial segregation in public schools, were essential, but the work didn't stop there. It stands at the crossroads of activism, policy, and education, with many women being involved in steering the direction of the organization. As we reflect on Women's History Month and honor the contributions of women like those I've mentioned, we cannot forget that the struggle is still ongoing. We must recognize that our systems continue to oppress the most vulnerable among us. We must recognize that they oppress the most vulnerable among us. Racial injustice and inequality persist, and women, especially women of color, continue to face intersecting challenges. From access to healthcare, to economic inequality, to combating violence and discrimination, the fight for full equality is far from over. So let us commit ourselves today to continuing the work that they started. Let us follow the example set by these women who dedicated their lives to fighting for the rights of all people. Let us not only celebrate the remarkable women of history, but also honor their legacies by carrying their torch forward. Let us be change makers and light bearers, dedicated to leaving a legacy of hope and inclusion for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It is now my honor to read the proclamation for Women's History Month. Whereas in the human experience of civilization, exploration, invention, and governance, men and women have worked together, yet, as noted by President Jimmy Carter, quote, "Too often the women were unsung and sometimes their contributions went unnoticed. But the achievements, leadership, courage, strength, and the love of women who built America was as vital as that of the men whose names we know so well," end quote. And whereas the United Nations has sponsored International Women's Day since 1975, when adopting its resolution on the observance of International Women's Day, the United Nations General Assembly cited the following reasons. Quote, "To recognize the fact that securing peace and social progress and the full enjoyment of human rights and fundamental freedoms require the active participation, equality, and development of women, and to acknowledge the contribution of women to the strengthening of international peace and security," end quote. And whereas the 2025 theme is Moving Forward Together, Women Educating and Inspiring Generations. And whereas women from every background have long realized that an uneven playing field will never bring equality or justice, and many feel the need to speak up and work harder for fairness in our institutions and social interactions. And whereas recognition, celebration, and inspiration of women's achievements promote the health, well-being, and success of women and girls worldwide. And whereas the City of Keizer recognizes that celebration of Women's History Month is part of our values of treating all people with dignity and respect. Now, therefore, I, Kathy Clark, Mayor of the City of Keizer, here with the Keizer City Council assembled in regular session, do hereby proclaim March 2025 as Women's History Month and encourage all the people of Keizer to celebrate, honor, and promote the achievement of girls and women in our community, state, nation, and the world. Ladies and gentlemen, Women's History Month, and I would invite women who are here in the audience and the women of the Keizer City Council and staff to join me in front for a picture. Thank you.
You're not going to ruin the picture.
right, can everybody look this way for a second? Say hippopotamus. Hey, where'd that come from? St. Patrick's Day, what's a good thing? Green, everybody green? Go Ducks. Ha, 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 ha. All right, thank you.
She did a wonderful job. All right. There's my glasses. Okay, got them. Thank you all very much. And again, thank you to our speaker for a very inspiring words. Really appreciate that. We will now go to committee reports. And first up, I would like to offer courtesy to Chief Blanco to give his report from the Keizer Fire District. And then we will go to item 5A, which is the Arts Commission Council Liaison Report. Chief, always good to have you here.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Appreciate it. You don't get our deputy marshal today, but I'll try to do my best. I just have a few things. Am I on?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
Red light on?
Yeah, it's on.
Okay.
Maybe I'm just
Just
not
pull
close
it.
enough.
There we go.
Okay. I just have a few things. Just wanted to go over the February calls. So we had 600 calls in February, 7 fire calls, 480 EMS calls, 34 service calls, and 79 either false alarms, fire alarms, or CO detectors going off. So it's right about average from last year. So we're only off 5 or 6 for last year. Just some general information. We are still recruiting for non-response or support volunteers. An application can be found on our website, or you can drop by the station if you have any questions, and we'd be happy to have a discussion with you. We should receive 2 brand new ambulances in April from our bond, so that's getting close to wrapping up, I think. So 2 new ones in April. With those 2, we'll also be hiring 2 paramedics. So that's good news. We're currently doing some water rescue training with Salem Fire, as well as some structural evolutions, trying to standardize our training and making sure that they know what we're doing, we know what they're doing, and making sure our communications are. We're pretty excited about that. I know they were over there this morning, and they're going to be out there throughout the week. We are also training with Northwest Natural. They've always been pretty good advocates for the fire district, so we're happy to have them come over to the station. And we also participated along with our brothers, the Keizer Police, over at Read Across America at Kennedy Elementary. So it was very nice doing that with them as well. And we completed 3 home safety visits this month, this month so far. And I just brought those in because I happen to have those. And those are coming off of our community risk reduction. So we go over, give some safety tips and possibly some resources to the family to help them move in a better direction. As a reminder, our Defensible Space Grant is still available, and it's now a web page number, so it's www.oregondefensiblespace.org, and if you can utilize that, and they'll come out and take a look around your home or your property and make sure that you are within some defensible space safety. And the last thing I have is we have a car seat clinic. We happen one tomorrow. Generally time, I think it's 3 to 5. I have a number that you can call and try to set an appointment or get in more information, which is 971-707-0472. And that's all I have for you, unless you have questions for me.
I'm exhausted. Okay. Thank you. And I really want to emphasize the Community Risk Reduction Program. I understand this is an innovation from Keizer Fire District, and you're leading this effort to really work on bringing the community together in reducing risk in homes, businesses, and across our community. Just really want to thank you for doing that. How is that program growing?
I think it's going really well, and we want to make sure we're focusing on our neighborhood associations. So back on the start, we met with all our neighborhood association, either board presidents or boards, and they wanted to come on board and help us with that. So they identify people in their neighborhoods as well as patrol and as well as our firefighter paramedics when they go somewhere and someone does not need a transport, but we see that they may need a resource, then we do a follow-up and do some outreach to them and provide them some information. It's going well. We did 3, which is pretty good for 30,000 people. I think people are starting to hear about it and they're reaching out, which is good because all of our resources are just waiting to help. We have lots of resources for there, and now we've tied in with the Oregon, I'm not going to remember the name. It's opposite of youth.
Elder?
Elder, thank you. And they have lots of resources for our elderly community as well, which is, it's not separate, but it's just more that they can be offered. So,
Awesome.
but so far so good, we're working with that.
Fantastic. Any questions for Chief Blanco? Thank you so much. Again, we really appreciate your partnership and
you.
coming
Thank you
here
for
to
having
share
me.
with us. We'll go to item 5A, and then we'll get a report from Matt Lawyer on Parks Planning and Clyde Creek Watershed Council. So, item 5A, City Manager?
Madam Mayor and Council, this is the third council meeting where you've approved the franchise agreement. Mr. Lindsay has this item and.
5A.
done all the- Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Oh, okay, sorry.
I've got one.
This,
I've got the Arts Commission Council Liaison appointment.
yes.
you.
So there, my understanding is that we have some on the council that are ready to make appointees to Keizer Public Art Commission.
All right, thank you very much. So at this time, we have changed the resolution governing the Keizer Public Arts Commission and have changed the position of a voting member to a non-voting liaison. And per council rules, this needs to be voted on and approved by city council to appoint Councilor Christopher as our liaison to the Arts Commission.
I move to appoint Councilor Christopher as the City Council Liaison to the Public Arts Commission.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to appoint Councilor Lori Christopher as the non-voting Public Arts Commission liaison. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, signify by saying no. Hearing no objection, motion passes unanimously. That makes that all official, and I think that then opens up the position on the Public Arts Commission for an appointment. Is that correct, Ms. Bissett? Right, because you had a voting position. Now we're going to open that up for the volunteer coordinating to conduct interviews for that position. Does that make sense?
I think they did that Thursday.
It's been filled? There we go. We will approve that then, I believe, in the next meeting, because it's not on tonight's agenda. Okay, great. With that, I'd like to call up Matt Lawyer to talk to us about parks, planning, and all of the good stuff. Lions and tigers and bears, oh my.
Really? Chief, I think you and Mr. Thompson are in cahoots on this one. I don't know. I'm going to go 6 minutes now per item. Good evening, Madam Mayor, Council. For the record, Matt Lawyer. I'm here to talk about 3 items. Let's start off with some good news. So this Saturday was the 15th annual Civic Center cleanup. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but I think that it would be totally appropriate to say we had well over 100 people that attended. It was nasty. It was wet. I think at multiple points, I might have seen people starting to float right out here on the side of the building. This is nerdy, right? But if you've never actually looked at how the gutter system works on this building, it creates kind of a really cool little water feature out front. And I had to stop and look at it for a minute because I've never seen that much water coming off the building. Incredible effort. It was great to have the department heads out there. Got to put Uncle Bill on a tractor. That was pretty cool. Have him out there slinging material into the bin. But very good event. Very appreciative of everybody that came out and supported that. And once again, I think we had a very, very good turnout. So thank you for everybody that was there and all the efforts. It was a pretty good day. So Switching gears a little bit, Planning
Councilor
Commission.
Kohler has a question.
I'm sorry?
Just a quick comment. You notice that all of the city heads, department heads were there that are here tonight.
Oh, yeah.
All of them, yeah.
So thank you. Thank you very much.
And I have to thank Tim, once again, being in the trash bin. Chief was trying to keep his cup of coffee warm most of the time. That's the 5 minute, Chief. No, Chief was keeping people motivated, and it was a great effort. Everybody was out there. Adam's new nickname is Pac-Man. If you saw what he had in his hands, these little yellow claw grabby things, it was a lot of fun.
They're great with the barberries, I'll tell you what.
Yes, ma'am. So to bring us down, we're going to do a little emotional roller coaster here today. We talked about planning commission stuff last Wednesday. And, Shane and Dina and Joe are doing really good work. And I think that they're trying to make the best out of CFEC as that program kind of unfolds. We looked at some of the design standards for our code as it relates to like the walkable areas. And we're going to be a square peg in a round hole as much as we possibly can. But there's some good things that came out of it. There's some code stuff that sort of enforces what's already been done in the River Cherry Overlay District. And, I think that one thing that I believe at my heart is that Shane and Dina really understand how Keizer functions. I think they're very thoughtful in the language they come up with and the opportunities they put in front of Planning Commission and the council for consideration for language changes. And so I do believe what we saw was probably the best foot forward. There's still going to be some more work that's going to be done on that, but I'm very thankful for the time that Shane and Deanna and Joe put into kind of pulling that all together. There's a lot of unknown. There's a lot of things that, frankly, we won't know for a long time as it relates to scenario planning and all this other CFEC related stuff, but I'm thankful that we have who we have at the table, having the conversations, and we're gonna make the best of the situation that we can make. And hopefully someday we'll get a nice big chunk of land and we can make all this happen and it'll be wonderful and glorious. But until then, we'll keep on working with what we've got.
Well, and if I may interrupt a little bit, and you were there in another capacity this morning, but there was a meeting of the advisory committee and CFEC is the Climate Friendly Equitable Communities, CFEC, which is the result of a governor's executive order on creating reductions in vehicle miles traveled for transportation. So Councilor Duran and I were there along with Mr. Witham for 2 hours, working through the options that the consultants brought to the advisory committee, which was City of Salem, City of Keizer, and Marion County. We landed on a preferred scenario for them to start fleshing out. And so we'll see more of that information come forward and outreach to the community for feedback as well. So stay tuned, more to come.
Yeah, so always doing a good job. I guess the benefit is Salem's taking a big brunt of it for the urban growth boundary. They have more room than we do, and so they're absorbing a lot of the impacts of these policies, which is the one benefit of having a shared UGB still. So otherwise, I have no idea what this would do to Keizer. It would be a very, very different thing in my opinion. But all right, switching gears, parks. Let's see. Let's start with, we had 2 matching grants come forward. One was for an idea that I think needed a little bit more time to flesh out. I think there's some merit to it, but talk to the applicant, ask them to sort of press pause. We'll kind of reevaluate this and make sure that we get it right. I think that everybody believes that what we put in our parks has to make sense, has to create value, and we don't want to just put something in there for the sake of putting something in there. And so we'll be working with the applicant to kind of flesh this out and come up with something that is going to actually benefit our park system and create opportunities for that. So grateful for the applicant for withdrawing that. And well, I guess they didn't really withdraw. The board didn't do anything with it, so it kind of stopped. The second one, if you all don't know who KP Crew is, I think you need to find out. KP Crew is a group of young adults and high school age kids that have been doing a ton of work out of the skate park. Mm-hmm. And I think to say a ton of work really doesn't qualify the actual level of volunteer work these people have done out there. They have been putting in hundreds of hours over the last 4 months doing maintenance and just really taking complete ownership of the park, reduction, I think, probably overall in graffiti at the park, policing behaviors, Still can't get the helmets, but you know what? We'll take our wins where we can. These group of young people are just absolutely incredible. And they came forward with this idea of doing this fantastic pollinator garden over at Chalmers Jones, kind of behind the skate park. And so that'll be a project through the youth grant. They're going to come in and work with Robert and the team to figure out what kind of really cool plants we can put out there and create opportunities for pollinator garden, which I like, but I'm a little disappointed because I had that idea 3 years ago, so they stole it from me. That's okay. I need more work. So we're super excited about that, and you know, we have some experience. We did the one a couple years ago at Wallace House, and it turned out really successful. So we talked about pickleball rules, no parking, and I'm very thankful that the person that had the accident is okay, and we're very thankful for that. But you know, we asked Robert to bring the pickleball rules back to the board in the spring to kind of take a look at what was working, what wasn't working. And the old adage is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And the rules are going fine. There's been no fights, which is great. And so keep on keeping on, and they're going to proceed. We'll see how things flow in the summertime. If there's some need or opportunity to adjust, we'll take a look at it. But so far, the rules have been going really well. Let's see, a couple other quick things. Councilor Parsons and I have been talking, and we're coming up on the 15-year anniversary of the Big Toy. And so...
10.
Just kidding, 10. I
Time
got this
flies, you're having
15-year
fun.
thing, 10. We did it in 2015, so I'm kind of right. And so what we're going to do is we're going to kind of a two-part cleanup event. We'll close it down for a period of time on a Saturday morning, go in there with some appropriate cleaning stuff, and you know, kind of do a top-down scrub, get any of the moss and mildew and stuff that's existed over the last 10 years off, and just really be very thoughtful about how we're doing that while we make sure we preserve the art, because there's some really good work that's been done out there. And then we're going to bring people with talent, not me, in to actually kind of touch up some of the art in the areas where it can be done. You know, I'll bring water or whatever is necessary, so I'm not big and clunky and dumb doing that kind of stuff. I have no artistic ability. My stick figures look like cats, and my cats look like werewolves, so it's very, very scary. But it's going to be a really cool opportunity to kind of refresh that up and get it ready to sort of reopen in kind of a rededication ceremony. And I think with the new shiny, it'll help people feel good about taking ownership of that park again and really being very thoughtful about what that looks like. So more to come on that. Last two things. March 31st is going to be the next fundraiser for the Keizer Gold Star Memorial Monument. That's going to be at the Rec. We have a $2,000 guaranteed match, which is incredible. We're trying to catch up to the work that Councilor Parsons and the Elks did, where they've brought in over $4,000, in fact, $5,000 now for that fundraiser. So we're very thankful for that work. We are right at, if not over, the 50% mark, which is great. And so we're just waiting on a couple things to solidify there. But this fundraiser will definitely tip us over the 50%, if not put us in a good place to really catch up with the last 50% for this project. So just really take the opportunity to go online, look at Facebook, Keizer Gold Star Memorial Family, find the event, March 31st at the Rec. Super thankful for Tim Davis and that group for hosting this and allowing us to do this. If you don't know about the Woody Williams Foundation and what this means, I encourage you to do your research to find out what it is. I'm gonna give you a 30-second snippet. In America, we do a great job of honoring our veterans. We do a great job of honoring those that lost their lives. What we don't always do a great job on is remembering the families, okay? And this dawned on me probably about 3 weeks ago. My daughter and I were talking, and she said, "Dad, do you wonder what it would be like if we were still in Hawaii?" I think about that every day. But in the context of the military, I hadn't thought about it in a while. And as I sort of sat and thought about it, I thought about my friend Russ's daughter, who has been without him now for 5 years. And when you are in the military and good things happen, everybody comes around. When there's marriages, everybody comes around. When there's babies, everybody comes around. There's this incredible group of community that's there. But when somebody dies, for a period of time, there is an incredible community of people that's there. But eventually the benefits kick in, and the families, if they don't live in the area around the base, get sent back to wherever. It could be somewhere in Iowa where they've never seen a military base. It could be somewhere in Oregon where we don't have a military base. We have guard bases, but there's not a lot of community. And so I think about that mother, that father, that son, that daughter, and the void that's left in their life. And this is an opportunity for us to step up in a really, really big way and provide them that peace, that stability in that moment, and that emotion when they're coming into Keizer and they're having that need to remember. And it is literally set in stone that we will honor these families forever moving forward. And I think that's a really important thing because it's something that I can never speak to. I haven't experienced that, but I've experienced enough of the families that have, and it's super important. So take the time, do the research, come out on March 31st. It's going to be a super great event. I know we got a couple other events that we're going to be kicking off here pretty soon, and really thankful for the opportunity to get to work on this project. So.
All right. Councilor Kohler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. You mentioned the KP crew. They were working in Saturday in the area that I was monitoring. Those guys worked really hard. I had about 4 or 5 of them there. They worked like crazy, and they made a difference in the area they were in. So, again, kudos to the KP crew.
Yeah, they're awesome. You know, Jacob and the motivation behind it, I mean, they're 20 years old, right? They're killing it out there. I'm so proud of them. Doing great work.
So, did you want to do the report on Claggett Creek Watershed Council?
Well, that was the Civic Center cleanup part that I
okay.
kicked it off with, Madam Mayor. Thank you for the opportunity to remind myself.
Okay. And I'll catch everybody up on that, on the meeting itself, which was on Thursday evening of the Claggett Creek
right.
Watershed Council.
Yeah, I didn't go. I was still at work.
Well, I'm the new liaison, so I was there, and really good stuff happening. And I think the main thing will be the ongoing work for projects along our watersheds, and also the a request for signage for along our 9 bridges that have the Claggett Creek under them. So that was a recommendation of the Claggett Creek Watershed Council to bring to city staff. So I'll follow up with Mr. Brown on that request. Okay. Anything further?
No, the chief said go, so I'm gonna go. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. We just got a 4-fer. That's awesome. Is there anyone else here for a committee report that I may not have gotten a slip for? Okay. I'll make sure I got that right. Slip that away. Okay, public comment. This time is provided for citizens to address the council on any matters other than those on the agenda scheduled for a public hearing. We have no public hearing scheduled for this evening. And before we go to the spoken comment, I'd like to acknowledge for the record 5 letters that have been submitted in writing. Matt Fatz, I may have mispronounced your name, I'm sorry, resident of Keizer, CDEC, letter of support. Jacqueline Green, resident of Keizer, CDEC, letter of support. Carolyn Homan, resident of Keizer, CDEC, retained name. Robert Husband, resident of Keizer, support for the CDEC's recommendations. Tammy Kunz, resident of Keizer, community feedback related to the CDEC. And for the record, CDEC is Community Diversity Engagement Committee. So all of those will be entered into the record. And they relate to agenda item 8, F and G. Yes. Well, F, G, and H all refer to the Community Diversity Engagement Committee. So we have 3 agenda items related tonight. And then I have a number of people who have signed up to testify. So in no particular order, I'm going to start with Marcy Wilkin. And then after Marcy will be Ryan Hewitt. So if you could just state your name, your city of residence for the record, and then you have 5 minutes. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah. Good evening,
Madam Governor, council members, my name is Marcy Wilkin. I have been a Keizer resident for over 40 years now. I'm here to speak to you today on the importance of maintaining the word diversity in the Diversity Engagement Council. Words matter, names hold meaning, and removing diversity from the title of this council sends the wrong message, not just to those who have historically been marginalized, but to our entire community. It signals a step backward when we should be moving forward. Diversity is not just a buzzword, it is a commitment. It acknowledges that our community is made up of people of different racial, ethnic, cultural, gender, and ability backgrounds. It affirms that these differences are not just tolerated, but valued. That inclusion is intentional, and that we are striving to create a city where everyone has a voice. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is not about raising up one group over another. DEI is about fairness, opportunity, and access. It ensures that talent, skill, and experience, not outdated bias or systemic barriers, determine who gets hired, promoted, and included in decision-making. Diversity brings new perspective, fresh ideas, innovative solutions. Equity ensures that everyone has a fair shot, not just those who have historically benefited from privilege. Inclusion creates a government that reflects and serves the entire community, not just a select few. When we push back against DEI, we are not defending meritocracy. We are defending a system that has historically excluded, discriminated, and marginalized. And let's be clear, DEI is not favoritism. It is about correcting historic and ongoing disadvantages. Some may resist DEI efforts, claiming that they are unnecessary or divisive. But those who oppose DEI often benefit from the very inequities it seeks to address. They fear losing unearned advantages, mistaking fairness for oppression. It's about lifting up and including those who have been traditionally marginalized by society, to give them an equal chance to participate. Removing diversity does not erase the need for it. It does not change the fact that barriers still exist for many in our community. It does not solve the inequities that people continue to face. What it does, however, is diminish our collective responsibility to recognize and address these challenges. Some may argue that the name change makes the council more inclusive, but inclusion does not come at the expense of diversity. It's strengthened by it. Diversity is what ensures that different perspectives are heard. It is what makes our conversation richer, our policies more effective, our city more representative of all the people who call Keizer home. If we truly believe in an engaged community, if we truly value equity and fairness, then we must be willing to say it out loud. We must be willing to stand by diversity. Keeping this word in the name of the Diversity Engagement Council is not just a symbolic gesture. It is a reaffirmation of the city's commitment to begin a place city's commitment to being a place where everyone belongs. Let's not erase progress. Let's stand firm on our values. Let's keep diversity in the name of this council, because diversity is not just important, it is essential. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Any questions? All right, thank you. I'd like to call up Ryan Hewlett, and after Ryan will be Butch Dunn. And again, just your name and city of residence for the record.
Thank you, Mayor Clark. For the record, my name is Ryan Hewlett. I've been a citizen of Keizer for 6 years and counting. And the majority of my time here has been relatively pleasant. So that's good. I want to just start off by saying thank you to everybody who's attending, as well as all of you, because this is a huge commitment that you put in every single day. And I don't want to say that, I'm not sure where my words are going for that, but I just applaud you for all the effort that you guys go through. And then thank you for both the police and fire. You guys both do also lots of work that lots of the citizens never see. So thank you. That being said, I'm here because I'm going to echo a lot of words that we just heard. I'm here tonight because it's kind of appalling that there are some members of the council that are trying to just even consider removing the word diversity from this group, Community Diversity Engagement Committee. That's at its essential, like just bare bones meaning, it is inclusive. When I first heard about this meeting that you guys had 2 weeks ago, my first reaction was, this is such a waste of time. This is such a deliberate step backward than what we should be doing. The justification we were hearing about the word diversity is that it was divisive and that it was weaponized. That's simply not true, because what is divisive is the choice to erase the word rather than embrace what it actually means. What is weaponized is the fear-mongering that goes around that word that represents inclusivity, representation, and fairness. And this isn't the first time that, this council has had the focus on the wrong things. There's been members on this council, I won't name names, but you know who you are, who tried to ban books. Thankfully, that was stopped. More recently, there was another council member that was trying to object to recognizing Indigenous Peoples Day, as if taking 30 seconds to acknowledge history was too much to ask. I'm glad that the motion died and that at least the rest of the council realized that was not the right thing to do. But at the end of the day, are these really the priorities that you guys are focusing on? Are these really the fights you guys want to pick? I don't understand that. That just is mind-boggling to me. Keizer deserves leadership that represents the best of the city, not the worst. You were elected to serve this community, all of it, not just the parts that you find comfortable. If you truly wanted everyone at the table, then diversity is not the problem. Your actions are. The city council needs to be better. You need to do better. And right now, honestly, you're kind of embarrassing the city with these petty exclusionary distractions when the real issues need your attention. As a resident of Keizer, I'm very ashamed of those actions. It's crazy. Like I said, it's So at the end of the day, what I'm trying to ask you guys is to stop wasting time on these pointless discussions about name changes. Stop wasting, it's all performative nonsense. Focus on what actually matters. That's really all. Just be good people, have integrity, and do the right thing. That's all I have to say. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit passionate about this. I'm very frustrated to hear that this was even a topic that was coming up. So I apologize for that passion.
You did fine.
That is all.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? There are no questions. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Mayor.
Butch Dunn, come on down, and Lisa Zajeka, you will be next. And your name and city of residence for the record.
Well, Butch Dunn, 40-year resident of Keizer. And also, I would like to recognize St. Patrick's Day. I'm Irish, so I'll take 10 seconds to do that. Good evening, Madam Mayor, duly elected and appointed city council members and city officials. I'm speaking on behalf of the majority of Keizer residents who voted to put all of you in office this past November, as well as 2 years ago for some of you. 3 of you ran unopposed and received at or very near 100% of those who voted here in Keizer. 2 of you garnered at least 2/3 of the votes cast in contested races. Keizer spoke loud and clear who they wanted running the affairs of the city going forward. You show up to countless committee, commission, and council meetings with good ideas and present solutions to actual problems that we face as a city. Unlike those who always use their energy to just protest and complain if an issue or a resolution to an issue is not to their liking. Which has brought me forward to publicly express my support for each and every one of you and the good work you continue to do for the betterment of Keizer. The most current topic of discussion, the CDEC committee has certainly brought forward public debate. In my opinion, it seems that city resources and city council volunteer hours, which you all put in extremely in volume during the year, could be spent on better things that don't need to be redundant. The verbiage of inclusivity and belonging would be better expressed, in my opinion, if each one of the city's committees had their own statements ingrained in their objectives and resolutions. Why add an additional layer of redundancy, especially when the remedy is one that is fairly easily solved? Therefore, I will strongly support the council's decision on what the future holds for the existence of the CDEC committee, whether that be status quo, renaming the committee, appointing new members, or dissolving the committee completely. So as you ponder the path forward, do it knowing that whatever the end result is, there are those of us who voted you in to make these tough decisions. And we strongly trust your judgment to do what is best for the city of Keizer. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Dunn? All right, thank you so much. Lisa Sajeka, and next up will be Jane Tichnell.
Hello, Mayor, City Councilors, staff. I'm Lisa Sajeka. I'm a 22 going on 23-year resident of Keizer. I am not speaking for myself today. I'm speaking for Carrie Brown, who wanted to be here, but she is teaching a class. And so she wrote this and asked me to read it, and I am. I apologize if I stumble over her words. It says, I am not able to attend tonight's meeting because I am doing a demo and teaching a class. I was out of town during the last city council meeting, but watched the recording of the meeting. During the March 3rd KCC meeting, I heard Councilor Christopher refer to the word diversity as divisive, being weaponized, and the word has changed for the worse. Councilor Cross recommended to get rid of the word diversity. Councilor Cross recommended several names to choose from and originally wanted the KCC to choose those options. After some discussion, it was decided that the CDEC members consider one of the recommended names, offer their own, or keep the current name. On March 6th, the CDEC voted unanimously to keep the current name that includes the word diversity. I would like to offer my perspective about the issue. Ever since President Trump issued an executive order to get rid of DEI initiatives, the word has been weaponized by conservatives in many areas of government and businesses. The word diversity does not have to be divisive. We can choose to view it as a source of strength and positivity. It is up to us to present it to the community as such. Diversity is strongly associated with equity, inclusion, and accessibility. The ideals are the opposite of exclusion. Several Oregon cities have strong DEI communities. Bend and Wilsonville have chosen to keep DEI efforts and strengthen their goals. Bend recently had 37 applications for 3 vacant positions. Gresham, McMinnville, and Portland have also have strong DEI committees. Deschutes County Commissioners and Estacada City Council, not unanimous, dissolved their DEI committees amid public outcry and protest against their decision. They admitted they did it to follow President Trump's executive order. Diversity is not just about race and ethnicity. Diversity means we include people from diverse backgrounds in education, economic status, religious affiliations, people with disabilities, and much more. 60 years ago, President Johnson signed the Voting Rights Act. Black Americans could finally vote. In 1920, the 19th Amendment granted women the right to vote. In 1955, Rosa Parks was arrested for refusing to give up her seat on a bus to a white passenger. In 1882, the Chinese Exclusion Act was signed into law. This created violence against the Chinese, especially in the Pacific Northwest. And it was repealed in 1943. In 1942, Executive Order 9066 created Relocation Center, aka internment camps, and incarcerated over 120,000 people of Japanese descent, including American citizens. See the pattern? It is the prerogative of the Keizer City Council to choose whatever name it feels appropriate for the CDEC. It is my hope that the members of the Keizer City Council disentangle local politics from national politics and see the strengths that diversity can bring to Keizer. I will continue to work with the members of the CDEC committee, Mayor Kathy Clark, and the members of the Keizer City Council. In the words of Johnny Lake, we are more alike than not, and like Lori said to me, we are all neighbors, we are not adversaries. We all want what's best for ourselves, our families, and the community. We want to belong and be included. Thank you for listening. And I liked all of her words, so I don't feel bad sitting up here reading them to you.
Thank you for doing that.
Okay.
Any questions for Ms. Ajeka? All right, thank you very much. Jane Tichenall, and after her, Michael Welsh. And just your name and city of residence for the record.
Hi, my name's Jane Tichenall. I live in Keizer.
Is the microphone on? Red light on?
Red light on. Yes, I think I need to speak up.
Yes, please.
Thank you. To the council, committee, and community, thank you for the thoughtful discussions and engagement regarding the name of the Community Diversity Engagement Committee. This conversation is an important one, and I hope we can continue to explore its significance together. What we know is this: we have seen overwhelming support, both online and in person, from our community members who wish to keep diversity in the name of the CDEC. As elected officials and as a committee, it is our responsibility to listen to those who have courageously voiced this desire. Diversity ensures that people of all races, national origins, genders, sexual orientations, abilities, ages, and socioeconomic backgrounds are represented. It is what allows our institutions and communities to truly reflect the people that they serve. Diversity is not something to fear, it is something to acknowledge, to learn from, and celebrate. It fuels innovation, expands creativity, and deepens our wisdom, making us better leaders and stronger as a community. Moving forward, our focus must be on the committee's work, learning about Keizer's evolving needs, connecting with our neighbors, identifying barriers, and expanding inclusive opportunities. Our goal is to uplift and celebrate the diverse experiences and identities of our city members. But this work does not rest solely on one committee. It is a collective responsibility. Each of us has an opportunity to take action, to educate ourselves, and to foster a community where equity and inclusion thrive. As leaders, we must commit to this mission by truly reflecting and responding to the voices that we serve. Let's continue this conversation and ensure that diversity remains a core value in Keizer. I encourage everyone to engage, listen, and learn, because only together can we build a stronger, more inclusive community. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Ms. Tichenall? All right, thank you very much. And the last one I have signed up is Michael Welsh.
Red light's on, all right. Good evening, Mayor Clark, members of the council and city staff. My name is Michael Welsh. I've been a resident of Keizer for about 2 years, but I grew up in central Nebraska, very small town, very small minds. And I'm here today to voice my concern over the recent remarks made by members of this council, as others have done before me, specifically that the claim that the term diversity has been weaponized. The statement is not only irresponsible, it's dangerous. It is very divisive there. Diversity is not a threat, it's a strength. Labeling diversity as a weapon is a tactic designed to silence and divide. It's an attempt to turn the fight of equity and equality into and representation into a political talking point rather than a moral obligation. The message it sends is clear, that inclusion is inconvenient, that equity is controversial, and that those asking for a seat at the table is somehow a threat. The word diversity needs to remain in the committee name because it reflects the core mission of fostering inclusive and representative of a community. Removing it would diminish the committee's purpose and signal that diversity is no longer a priority. Diversity is not just a concept, it is a commitment to recognizing, valuing, and uplifting the varied backgrounds that make up of our city of Keizer. The committee's work remains focused on building a more equitable and welcoming environment for everyone. This council, and all of you that are elected, are supposed to represent all the citizens, not just the ones who look, think, and pray the way you do. The leadership means recognizing and embracing the richness of our differences, not weaponizing language to justify exclusion. I'm calling on this council to publicly retract these harmful statements and to recommit to creating a community where diversity is valued, not vilified. Anything less is a betrayal of the principles of justice and the equality that this city should stand for. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for Mr. Welsh? All right, no questions. Thank you so much. That is everybody I had signed up to testify this evening. Looking at a time check, we are going to go ahead and go into our administrative action for this evening. I want to thank all of our speakers tonight. And we do need to go on with the agenda at this time. Many of you were speaking about agenda items F, G, and H, and we will get to those in the order in which they have been listed in the agenda. So we will get to the work post haste. So with that, I'd like to go to item 8A, which is an ordinance establishing a franchise agreement with Northwest Natural Gas Company for placement of gas utilities in the public rights-of-way, repeal of ordinance number 2012-669. City Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. Now I'm on the right page of the agenda. Your city attorney has this item.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. This is before you. It's a ordinance to go ahead and have a 10-year franchise agreement with Northwest Natural Gas. This is very similar. The language is nearly identical as with the other two that you saw, the prior two meetings with PGE and with Salem Electric. And so this was sort of, all the pieces sort of fell in place as we all sort of worked together to try to clean up just a little bit of the language, but for the most part, nothing's really changing. The same rates will be in place, the same sort of relationship we have, which this group also, we have a good working relationship with. Haven't had, in speaking with folks both on their side and our side that are in the field, there was nothing to really correct because we've always primarily been able to work together and patch things up in the necessary way and keep services flowing for folks. So we didn't want to fix what wasn't broken. And so we've also didn't want to raise rates. I've heard you guys say this loud and clear that ratepayers shouldn't have to pay more because of the city. So we've kept the rates the same, and we would hope to just keep this relationship going for the next 10 years.
All right, thank you very much. I want to clarify that the rates to which we are referring are the franchise fee rates, not the rates that are charged for the actual utility by the company. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's the part that the city
Right.
is able to get a little fee from the fact that they're in our rights of way, and we have to police those and govern those, so.
So I just want to make sure that in the minutes and the record, people understand that's the only part that we control here is the franchise fee rates.
Correct.
All right, thank you. Any other questions from City Council? Council President Starr?
Did we have somebody in the audience?
Did we?
I don't know.
No.
Okay.
I don't have anybody.
Just checking.
Thank you.
I move to adopt ordinance 2025, establishing a franchise agreement with Northwest Natural Gas Company for placement of gas utilities in the public rights of way and repeal of ordinance number 2012-669.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council adopt ordinance 2025, establishing a franchise agreement with Northwest Natural Gas Company for placement of gas utilities in the public rights of way, repeal of ordinance number 2012-669. Discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed signify by saying no. Hearing no objection, motion passes unanimously. Let's go to item 8B, which is an amphitheater fee waiver, 2025 Keizer Rapids Summer Sounds Concert Series. City Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. Mr. Wood has this item.
Madam Mayor, City Council, Valor Mentoring is putting on the summer concert series at Keizer Rapids Park Amphitheater. This is going to be a 7-concert series that's free to the public. Food, beverages, and alcohol will be available for purchase. I'm not going to steal too much excitement, and with the consent of council, I'd like to turn it over to Tim Davis from Valor Mentoring.
Thank you very much. Welcome, Mr. Davis.
Hello, thanks for the time. Yeah, we're going to continue to run the concert series as we did the previous year. It's, again, a free concert series. It costs us about $28,000 in fees, so between sponsorships and possibly the waiving of that helps us to at least break even or so on something like that. So.
Do you have any previews of coming bands that you want to entice our viewership with?
Well, a couple of 2 or 3 returning ones would be, of course, JFK will close out the season. Johnny Wheels will be back, and then I don't have the greatest memory, but we have 6 of the 7 slots done, and we're just negotiating with bands for the last slot. So, yeah, we're excited. We're trying to step up a few of those slots each year. So, yeah.
And are you going to have the like a local band or a student band, the APT playing?
Most of the
as well?
concert will have an opener
Yeah.
that's comprised of young people. Exactly. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Sometimes middle of summer it's a little tough, but yeah, that's the goal.
Excellent. Any other questions for Mr. Davis? Council President Starr.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Davis, are there sponsorship opportunities available for the community to get
Yes,
involved?
if you're watching, absolutely.
To
Yeah.
help with offset the costs, because it's not free. to
Yes,
put these on.
absolutely. There's corporate sponsor opportunities if people want to help to chip in, to do that. Again, roughly it's about $28,000 to pay the bands and all the stuff we do as far as staffing and so on. So.
Can I follow up?
Follow up?
And how would they find that information if they were interested in partnering?
Yeah, they could email info@Valor Mentoring or tim@valormentoring.com, and we're glad to follow up with them, send them a sponsorship packet. All that stuff's available to be sent electronically and so on. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for asking. Yes.
Absolutely. Anything further? All right. Thank you so much, and thanks
Okay.
for being here tonight and the work for our concerts in the park. Council President Starr, would you please put a motion on the table?
I move that the Keizer City Council approve the waiver of fees in the amount of $3,675 for Valor Mentoring's 2025 Keizer Rapids Summer Sounds Concert Series.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council approve the waiver of fees in the amount of $3,675 for Valor Mentoring's 2025 Keizer Rapids Summer Sounds Concert Series. Discussion? Councilor Kohler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just was wondering how the insurance works, the liability insurance works with the park and in those situations.
Mr. Brown? Mr. Wood?
City Council, Madam Mayor, the insurance is provided by the people hosting the event. So Valor Mentoring will be in charge of that.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, signify by saying no. Hearing no objection, party on. Motion passes unanimously. Item 8C, which is the Event Center Fee Waiver, Vet Care, West Care, Oregon, Second Annual Mental Health Summit. Mr. Brown?
Thank you again, Madam Mayor and Council. Mr. Wood also has this item.
Madam Mayor, City Council, Vet Care, West Care, Oregon has requested a waiver of the use fees for the second annual Mental Health Summit on May 20th, 2025. The letter requesting the use fee waiver is attached to the staff report. The use rate for the event center is $243.75 per hour. That's the nonprofit rate for 501c organizations. Vet Care, West Care has requested access to the room from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. on the day of the event, and on May 19th from 4 to 6 p.m. for setup. Total fees, including the use of AV and stage, is $3,225. And with that, I'd be free to turn it over with council's consent to Roy McLean.
Yes, sir. Roy McLean. Hello, my name is Roy McLean, Madam Mayor, City Council, City staff, especially you, Chief. Thank you for your service. I don't know if all the council members has the letter we sent in, but because I don't want to fluff it up, I'd like to read it. I'll try to hurry. Before I start, my name is Roy McLean. I'm the director of Vet Care, West Care, Oregon. But more importantly, I'm also a veteran myself, 20-year vet. So is Nancy Pine. She's a program manager. But we're trying to get, I'm just going to read it. I'm coming before you today to request a waiver of fees for the uses of Keizer Event Center on May 20, 2025. Before I go into it, our biggest thing about this mental health summit, we had one last year for the community partners. We did it in Dallas. And we had community partners and organizations from all over the state attend. And we'd like to do that again in Keizer. We offer 4 different programs. One of our programs here is Vet Care. Vet Care is a grant per diem veteran-only male veteran shelter in Salem. It houses up to 30 homeless veterans at any given time. We bring in veterans that are seeking shelter, have at least 1 day of active duty, and have a good discharge from service. We are also a higher barrier facility in that our veterans are prohibited from using drugs or alcohol while housed here and must work the program to achieve their individual goals. We also require our veterans who have an income to pay 30% towards a monthly fee to stay here. The program is a VA grant established to help homeless veterans have shelter while working towards their individual goals of self-sufficiency and accountability. While sheltered here, we offer case management, peer support, mental health services, employment assistance, housing assistance, and aftercare for when they move into permanent housing. We also have the HVRP program, which is the Homeless Veterans Reintegration Program, which is an employment program. I'm going to skip a little bit. We also have the Staff Sergeant Suicide Prevents Program. That's a program that the VA implemented to help net more veterans that they couldn't get through the VA healthcare system. And that system is set up to find more veterans that have suicidal ideations or who have had suicide ideations. And then it's our responsibility to help alleviate those factors in their life that exacerbate those suicidal ideations. And then we have the grant per diem case management, which is a program to follow veterans 6 months after they get into permanent housing so that they don't fall into recidivism once again. Last year, we had our first annual mental health summit. Like I said, the summit brought community partners, organizations, and private companies to come and understand mental health with our veterans and the supportive services that not only we as West Care provide, but all community partners that attend can provide, and learn more about our veteran community. The first summit brought heightened awareness to our community and a greater understanding of what our veterans face after discharging from military service. The turnout from the organizations was great, and the summit a success, and the community partners that attended asked that this please be a recurring annual event to continue the awareness, understanding, resources, and commitment to honor and serve those veterans who selflessly put themselves in harm's way to protect our way of life and future as Americans in the United States. Our wish is to have this event at your event center this year, as we would like to educate our community partners, veterans, and residents of the Keizer community. Keizer has a veteran population of 2,500, making up approximately 6.4% of your residents. Many of these veterans have served in combat and have returned with mental health challenges. Our wish is to educate the Keizer community on the challenges these heroes have faced and how we as a community can help through their difficult times. Vet Care currently works with a number of community partners in Keizer. These community partners include the Keizer Elks, Valor Mentors, and Keizer Fest, to name a few. Developing these partnerships has made us aware that we need to establish a stronger partnership with the Keizer community so we may better serve our veterans. Now, we do get grants. 3 of them are through the VA, the HVRP employment programs through the Department of Labor. But line items in our grant are specifically for the veterans and what we can spend for the veterans. Any extra activities that we try to provide through outreach, therapies and stuff like that, we get donations and partnerships through the community. And that's why we're asking for the waiver from you guys, is because it doesn't really fit in our line item. So I would really appreciate it. And before I close, I just want to say to the chief and first responders that although veterans serve in combat, I went on 4 tours. But I would like to say to them, and I got to not get emotional, but I would like to say to them that, you know, a veteran goes out and he serves a year, 9 months, whatever, he's in a combat zone, he or she. And, but what a lot of people don't understand and make aware is that first responders deal with PTSD every day through their whole career. So that, I just want to put that out there. That's not recognized enough. So, but in the end, what we'd like to do is get our waiver waived, or our fee waived for the event. And we really appreciate the opportunity to be in Keizer for this mental health summit. And I'm open to any questions, and I hope you have some.
All right, thank you very much, and thank you both for your service to our country. Very much appreciate, want to honor and salute you for that. Councilor Parsons.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Roy, is this mental health summit open to all?
It's open to all.
Not just to veterans?
It's open to all, the community themselves, the veterans, first responders, anybody that would like to come and be made aware of more of the veteran mental health that they're dealing with every day.
Thank you. No.
Okay. And the hours of the event on the 20th?
I can't remember. It's in the morning to the early afternoon.
Okay. So it's pretty much all day?
Pretty much all day. We had quite a few community partners. There will be probably 3 speakers. There'll be a Q&A panel that will also be there. So, and the people that we're having to speak, those 3 will take some time, plus the panel, plus lunch will be provided. So yeah, all day.
Okay. And so you're asking for the day of and the entire day before, or part of the day before?
Part of the day before to set up.
Okay, for setup and all the tabling and so forth. And you have a number of speakers or tabling, other nonprofits coming in for, you know,
Yes, ma'am.
Informational displays.
Yes,
Right.
ma'am.
Okay,
And this is a free program, or free summit for the community.
okay. Council President Starr?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, you answered part of my question, but thank you both for your service and for being here. If anybody's interested in registering for the event, where do they go and how do they do that?
We're getting together with our marketing departments shortly. We're going to be having flyers go out, and there'll be a QR code that you can register online with.
Follow up?
Is there a website that somebody could go to or
Yes,
kind of
we will-
check back in?
Yes, we'll be able to put it, we'll probably have a link on our Facebook and our social media pages as well.
And could you share what those like handles are or what that website is for people that are watching? They might want to.
Vet Care Oregon
Great.
is the name of the Facebook page.
Vet Care Oregon, great, thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further questions? All right, thank you. And thank you all very much for bringing this to Keizer. Council President Starr.
Thank you.
I move that Keizer City Council approve the requested fee waiver of the event center use fees of $3,225, but charge the refundable security deposit of $1,500 for the Vet Care West Care Oregon Second Annual Mental Health Summit on May 20th, 2025.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council approve the requested waiver of the event center use fee of $3,225, but charge the refundable security deposit of $1,500 for the Vet Care West Care Oregon Second Annual Mental Health Summit on May 20th, 2025. Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, signify by saying no. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hey, Roy, you look nice dressed up, by the way.
He does.
Cleans up pretty good.
If anybody wants any information about our program, we'll have it in the back.
Great, thank you very much. If you leave a copy of each with Ms. Bissett, our city recorder, I'd appreciate that as well. All right, thank you very much. That takes us to item 8D, a resolution authorizing the city manager to sign agreement with Keizer Chamber of Commerce for Visitor Center and Tourism Promotion Services, waiving of city-related fees as sponsorship of events. City manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. This item is before you because in the last budget cycle, last June of 2024, the Chamber, in response to back and forth with the budget and the City Council, invited the city to come together to create an agreement. These agreements between cities and the chambers of commerce are probably more common than they to have a written agreement than to not. To this date, we have not had a written agreement. So we came together to work on that. 3 city council members were invited to participate, which were Councilor Duran and Councilor Cross and Mayor Clark, who met with the chamber team. The city team recommended that we split the funding to the Chamber of Commerce into 2 buckets. One bucket is approximately 10% of their overhead costs, which is around $25,000. The second bucket is to fund marketing that the chamber does to bring folks in from outside of town and specifically around exceeding the 50-mile range. So we went through back and forth exchanges with different drafts of that agreement, and the city team came back and recommended the $25,000 for the overhead and to fund $15,000 towards the marketing efforts from the city's current year, the Chamber of Commerce's last fiscal year. In that discussion too, we also came up with the in-kind services that the city's paying for different Keizer events like the parade and Keizer Fest. That number is about $30,000, and that itemization is attached to the staff report. This agreement also would create some efficiencies by waiving the need to come to the council every time they have an event. For instance, the First Citizen event and the parades. The parades we just do, but the Percy auction is the other event waiver that would be made more efficient with this agreement because it would just be written into the agreement. I do want to say the Chamber of Commerce originally requested $50,235 for this current fiscal year. They sent in a revised request, which was attached to the staff report, for $48,182.50. And this agreement has been reviewed by the city attorney and signed off. Options tonight, you can adopt the resolution as it is. You can consider the amount of funding within those 2 buckets or any other ways that you might come up with it, or taking no action tonight. So the city team is recommending the attached resolution and funding the Chamber of Commerce for the current fiscal year at $40,000.
Thank you very much. And Jeremy Turner, the president of the chamber, and Corey Johnson, the executive director, are both here to help with answer, and Jonathan Thompson from the board. They're all here, and it was a pleasure working with all of you in this conversation. And Jane Lowry is here as well, the past president. So if whatever questions we can't answer, they probably can. Councilor Christopher.
Sorry, before you get started on your presentation, I wanted to ask you, Adam, so you said overhead cost, is that overhead, 10% of their overhead cost, lest anybody think that this is going to support an independent business? That overhead cost at an estimate of 10% is the amount of time they spend for tourism, business prospects, all of the things that if we had an independent office within the city of Keizer, we would have to pay for. Am I correct in that?
That's a fair assessment of it. Yep.
So we've determined together that 10% of your overhead cost is what you spend to answer phone calls, both for folks that are looking to move to Keizer, businesses that are looking to move to Keizer, anything tourism or relocation related. Yes.
Partly.
Madam Mayor, Councilor Christopher, that is what the agreement states. I would hazard that we probably spend more than that on more time at the chamber than just 10% of the overhead, but 10% seems reasonable.
Okay. And then follow up. So that was staff's recommendation, but we had an ad hoc task force of 3 city councilors. And what was their recommendation?
10%. This is the,
So you agree with staff?
yes.
They agreed with us.
Yeah,
Staff agreed.
they agreed, we agreed together.
Okay.
And in collab, we met with the chamber team to discuss the options on how the funding would be allocated and designated, and looking at this in 2 different ways. One being the overhead. You have to have lights on, the heat or cooling, depending. There are just basics to operating an office. And then looking then at the marketing plan for the other part of the bucket. So 10% of the overhead was as a baseline, and then additional went with the work that has been done on travel and tourism marketing in this, their fiscal year just ended.
Okay.
Does that help?
It does. I'm ready to hear what they say.
All right.
That's what we. Those working.
It's kind of on.
That's what we agreed upon. I don't think it was a set 10% that we said. It was more of the amount, because we know the budget's going to change, and we weren't asking based on specifically the budget. It was the amount of time and effort that our staff used, and it was going to be very difficult for us to track partial conversations that were chamber related versus travel and tourism as well.
Yeah, it was more formulaic, because oftentimes when we're doing, basically your indirect costs, looking at contracts, you look at what it takes to keep the lights on, the doors open, and then you're looking at the specifics of the marketing plan, which is the additional information that's been provided. I'm going to go to Councilor Parsons. I'll come back to Councilor Christopher.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So you came up with a different kind of thing of 48,000. They came up with 40,000. So the marketing plan, is that where that difference is? And is that because websites are more money or printing is more money? I mean, help me out here, because it's very important that we have these printed materials for tours. It's very important that we have a website for tours. So help me with that piece.
You're the marketing guy.
So the 48,000, so the additional 25,000 for the marketing efforts, that was just to show the effort in which we were putting forth to bring people back in the community. I know that City Manager Brown mentioned, 50 miles. I think that it's a little deceptive when it comes to the amount of people we bring to the city. Specifically, like, we're not able to really truly track residents from Salem coming to Keizer Fest or the parades. I think that, one of the documents inside the packet showed just a sheer number of people that were at the parade this last year, based on what we could find at a 50-mile radius, which was amazing. But we know that there were a lot more local people, being the Salem, Silverton, Woodburn area, that were in attendance. I don't necessarily know why the recommendation was brought down from 25 to 15, that those specific details weren't addressed. I do know that during the conversations we had discussed not using line items to bring in a value in which we were trying to cover specific items within our budget. Mm-hmm. And so we took all of the efforts that we had, and that's what the during our committee or our breakout session meetings were covering, was just all of the different social media, website, directories, things like that we do.
Follow up?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Do you guys produce rack cards to put in different places that shows what the chamber does and your number and where you're located, or specifically maybe at hotels for visitors who come to the hotels, to oh, I want to go to this restaurant or come to River Road or whatever. I mean, do you guys do anything like that?
Yeah, we have our visitor guide that we put out every year, and that was also recommended that we communicate with the other local hotels. In one of our meetings, it was brought up that we specifically go after, or not go after, but visit with them and ask to place it in the hotels as well.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, Council President Starr? Then I'll work that way.
Okay, I have a bunch. Okay. Thank you for being here, and thank you for all the work that you do to put on Keizer Fest and our Holiday Light Parade and to support our small businesses. So I went through this probably with too fine of a comb. So bear with me and I apologize. I want to clarify something though, Adam, Mr. Brown, that you said. Part one is the 25,000. You recommended funding this in two parts. Part one is the $25,000 for the portion of the chamber's operations that are solely for the visitor, operating the visitor center. Then you mentioned part two at 15,000. And I wrote down, but I have a question. You said this is for their marketing efforts for their last fiscal year. Is that correct?
Or current?
Well, that's what I'm asking.
Yes, their fiscal year ended in February, right?
January.
So our fiscal years don't align up.
Correct.
But there was, thanks for asking the question, because there's two marketing plans in the packet, and one was the first attempt, which was really kind of establishing what they do now. And then as we worked through the conversation, the other one became more aspirational, which what things could we do to improve the outreach? So I think the full funding from the committee's perspective was that plan should be considered in the next fiscal year for full funding, but both are up to the council.
So which is the 15,000 paying for? The one marked draft 2024 marketing efforts?
Yes.
Or the one, the Keizer marketing plan outline?
Yeah, it was thought that the draft, the one marked draft, because that represented what happened this year. That's where
And that's what you want the 15,000 to
Right.
go for?
Correct.
So where are the expenses for what we're paying for?
Yeah, we didn't include a detailed budget for each one of those items in the marketing plan.
Okay.
So just to clarify, if we can go to Mr. Turner.
Can I? Okay, so based on the recommendation from our conversations, it was suggested that we did not put line items to cover specific things. What we were asked to do was put into our accounting software specific TOT-related funded items, and then be able to pull out all of that information, and that's where we came with the numbers.
Like class codes? Right, okay. So, but where is that according to the marketing plan? I'm trying to reconcile the 15,000 versus what's in here.
If I might, the committee, when we met, we opted not to say the city is going to pay for this specific item and that specific item, because as we all know, in the last budget cycle, we got massively high-centered on that. I think that might be an understatement. So what the committee decided is that the city would contribute some amount of money toward the general marketing efforts. You have a list of those efforts in front of you. And I do think that one thing that was in the memo, but I want to make sure that folks are aware of, is that even at $50,000, this represents less than 10% of the chamber's budget. So we're not here saying we need you to fund all of the chamber operations. We're asking you to fund less than 10% of the chamber operations. And quite frankly, the $15,000, if we were to allocate it to specific things, wouldn't fund anything. I mean, we could, any event we do, we could assign $15,000 to, and it still would have to be, it's still, the chamber sponsorships and members would still have to make up the difference. So that's why we ended where we did. And please, if Councilor Cross, the mayor, or Councilor Duran want to correct me on that, I'm happy to stand corrected, but I think our plan was not to try to get high-centered because, like I said, $15,000 won't fund anything we do in whole.
So to, to follow up on Mr. Thompson, similar to the overhead, where it's in total, all of the expenditures that go toward maintaining the chamber space, staffing your basics for operation. Similarly, this is the marketing efforts related to travel and tourism taken in toto. And then I'm asking the city to fund 15,000. Our recommendation for this year is 15,000, and then have the conversation on the, again, the overall plan, looking at 2020, the 25-26 budget for the ask in this coming year. That's where that is coming from. Does that help?
I mean, I like numbers, so that's why I was asking for specific questions to understand where the money is going to be applied. I guess one other, I have a few more. Under the 2024 marketing plan, you mentioned that you're currently working to create an online guide that can be used by those visiting for soccer. I just want to make sure did that get done in 2024?
No, it is not yet done.
Okay. And then do we have an agreement or a plan with the city team to market the Civic Center or the Event Center? Because I thought that was what we were paying our staff for.
Yeah, I've had several conversations with Lily, as well as the mayor and other council members, just making sure that we're sharing the information. I had a sit-down meeting with Lily the other day to talk about those efforts as well. She has a lot of a long-range plan of different rollout situations, but mostly it was showcasing and sharing points of interest, things drawing traffic into the city and things that are going on in the city, different events that may be beneficial to not only our chamber members, but citizens of Keizer or other people in the area to attend. To say that we are going to do 8 posts per week or month to highlight city events, it's undetermined because it's based on what is happening at that time. We have no problem at the chamber to be able to develop some kind of plan to hit a certain number of events, but we also have roughly 400 members that we also have to show equal time to. And frankly, when it comes to social media, you don't want to dilute the population or dilute the information that's being put out there, or else it gets saturated and nobody's watching anymore. So we want to be very careful about how much we're posting about certain events.
Follow up?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the in-kind itemization that you included is valued at over $30,000. So am I correct? I mean, are we essentially saying the $40,000 is cash and then another $30,000 of what the city's paying for on top of that? Or is the $30,000 being subtracted from the $40,000 that they're requesting? Because that would then be $80-some thousand.
Right, the $30,268 is the actual amount of either things that we've waived, fees that we've waived, and staff time for parades, the Public Works, the Police Department, and so that is not included, to answer your question, in the $40,000. That would be 40 or 50, whatever direction the council wants to go. The 30,000 would be added to that to show our support to monetize our support to the
Madam Mayor, if I may add, in the previous year, that 80,000 was exactly the same. And with the previous allocation, the chamber was given 40,000 in cash plus those in-kind services. So none of that's changed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
One more?
Oh, I mean, on the Keizer marketing plan outline, there's no metrics or timelines in there. And so my when I review a ton of grants for outreach and recruitment, and we have deliverables in the first quarter with certain metrics, deliverables in the second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter, and we even have requirements for budget, projected budget. Obviously, we don't have an exact number, but an estimated cost of what those items are going to cost and timeline of getting them done. Are we going to be, when we consider the funding request, is it on a reimbursable basis? Because that's hard. I mean, it says we want to do or we're planning to do, but there's no timelines associated with it.
Okay, so just for a full timeline, the draft document that you see there was not asked of me or anybody from the chamber to be presented until after our committee started meeting together. That was a draft. It was my misunderstanding in which we were supposed to use that information as a guide to the way that we were going to create the contract going forward to have a sustainable relationship going forward. So we didn't have constant meetings to submit permits, submit waivers, and we always knew what was going to happen throughout the year. The second one is actually the third or fourth time that I rewrote that to get approved again by city staff and the council members to say, this is exactly what we want. We don't want specific timelines. We don't want specific deadlines in which these are going to happen or an actual amount, because these are all things that are percentages of things that we're already doing. For me to say that you will see X number of posts before Keizer Fest or before a parade is not realistic for me and our team, because it's going to change constantly based on the number of sponsors we get, the number of interactions we get, and it's very difficult for me to show. Over the years, we've shown, and I think in the very first document, we do have some some metrics that were shown on website visits, interactions. I'm happy to provide those. It's just very difficult to say, if I do 3 posts, you're going to get 30,000 impressions, unless we start doing some advertising, and then I can talk about that in different ways. But it depends on what our budget's going to be going forward. With us not having any money from the work that we've done over the past year, it's very difficult to continue to operate on a good faith effort that we're going to continue to get money going forward.
And it might follow up that one of the things we discussed also was the degree to which we would be trying to micromanage the Chamber of Commerce, and knowing that this is a fraction of the overall marketing efforts that are done on behalf of the businesses who are members, including the city of Keizer, that it was agreed upon that it would be more holistic rather than try to micromanage specific line items.
You'll forgive me for asking all these questions, but I literally just got these documents in our meeting packet when I checked my mail, actually late Wednesday night. So I wasn't part of the committee that did this, so
Ask away.
I mean, that's why I'm asking the questions.
Ask away.
I think, where are you at? I noticed there was another, and I hear what you're saying, Mr. Turner, when it's hard to do on a good faith effort. I guess my question is, like, we see line items that say things like marketing videos, highlighting specific events of the Keizer Fest parade, golf tournament, kickoff party. Are those how many videos are they produced? I mean, I think that when I think of a marketing plan, that's what I write in a marketing plan, or what I've done before in outreach and recruitment plans. So I'm looking for more understanding of what's going to be done with those videos, like where radio ads, how, are those ads produced yet? Where?
So
Sorry. Just lots of questions.
These are great. I have been asked to sit in, and I do a interview every single Tuesday. Tournament, parade, vendors, teen talent show, all like a bunch of different individual items to draw awareness to specifically Keizer Fest and the parades that we do.
So those aren't necessarily paid radio ads. Like, we have 30-second radio spots that are ads with a call to action that you could send out to, you know, I don't know, Radio Poder, inviting people to come into Woodburn and purchasing radio spots at another radio station.
Correct, but I would argue that it's better because he has a lot more time to get into the specifics. A 30-second radio ad, as you know, you barely have time to say Keizer Chamber of Commerce, Keizer Fest is the third weekend in May. So I think these long-form things are going to be a much better opportunity for all of us.
Okay, so I just am trying to understand if these are tourism dollars that
Yes.
we want to bring people into Keizer,
Correct.
right, for tourism. I'm trying to understand what the plan is to do outreach outside of Keizer to bring people into Keizer.
I would-
So like Woodburn, you know, I mean, or very, you know, outside of Keizer to come in.
I'll let Jeremy speak to the Facebook, but just to because he knows a whole lot more about someone like me who's not even on it. But I know, yeah. But you know, KBZY is Salem. So I mean, as a business owner, if it's Salem money, that's okay too. I'll take their money and I'll spend it very wisely for them. But what, you want to speak a little bit to the Facebook aspect as well?
I guess I'm having a hard time understanding the question a little bit. We're not asking for the city to give us $500 so that I can place an ad in Portland to draw people into Keizer, because I think that my time is worth more than $500 an hour, especially 4 times a month that I go and spend on the radio. We share those videos. We make sure that you know, KBZY in kind donates their time and effort to produce the recording so we can share it online multiple times a day. So I think there is a lot more than just that little bit. And again, if we're not finding line items to fund, then we are looking at small percentages of those, all of those assets that we're doing. Specifically talking about Woodburn, I attend the Woodburn Chamber of Commerce meeting every Friday. I have strong relationships with all of the city of Woodburn, city council included, and I have encouraged them all to attend Keizer Fest and the parades and be sponsors and come and enjoy our festivities as much as possible. So I think there is a lot still being done, and that specifically those relationships are listed in our marketing efforts.
2 more? Okay, then gotta move down the line here.
Well, I appreciate
Please.
that, but
Thank you.
again, just saw it, first time seeing it, not part of the conversations. The Keizer Community Fields Tournament Guide, when is that expected? And are you working in partnership with the Keizer Community Fields group?
Yeah, we've had some conversations with them, and the last conversation that we had with them, I believe that there was a, I don't want to speak out of turn on exactly what was happening, but I think there was like a trial period maybe, and they were waiting to see if it was they were going to continue to be the people in charge of it, and that it just hasn't, we have not fulfilled that role yet. I mean, that's one part of the total thing that we want to help support is building out the guide that helps people have a landing page for people to go to talk about. I think the last time, one of the conversations we had was specifically like, what kind of signage can we put up? Can we create a QR code that puts up on the thing? And I think right at that time, there was some discussion on what kind of signage can be put up on the fences at the fields. And there hasn't been any conversation since then. So maybe there's another opportunity there, but I haven't filled that part yet.
Okay, thank you. And then in the contract, it asks that the city shall receive and be provided the opportunity to give feedback on the marketing plan discussed in 2B. So that's number 1. Like, what does that look like? Who's providing feedback? Is that us? Like, when do we get that? Because I don't feel like if we're just getting it now, were able to provide feedback on it, because I'm getting limited on my questions.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor, Councilor Starr. You're actually getting it early. The contract requires that it be provided to the city within 30 days of execution of the contract. The contract hasn't been executed yet. So what we provided you is an outline for discussion, and this feedback is wonderful discussion, but this is, the contract actually says 30 days after execution, so.
So thank you for clarifying that, because what good is, if the contract's already executed and the marketing plan is part of the contract, are you gonna incorporate the feedback that we give you if it's already an executed agreement?
Well, of course we would.
I'm trying to understand why we would give feedback on something that's already executed.
Well, I think we're getting back into the line items again, which is fine.
It's in the contract, so I'm just asking.
But you guys aren't funding specific line items. So as long as we're heading in the direction you want us to go, which is good. But the second part of it is, and I don't want to sound like I'm passing the buck on this, I did not write that section of the contract. That was provided to us by the city, and we just simply agreed to it. So.
And my final question is, somewhere, I can't remember in there, it asks about you're working with Travel Salem. What does that partnership and relationship look like?
Data. It's the Placer, Placer AI database, and that's the one where the initial numbers that you see there in the draft is at 50 mile radius. I think the first conversation I had with Jonathan was, wow, I can't imagine somebody from Vancouver convincing me to go to their parade, but we must have done a good job to get somebody from that far away to come to our parade. But after more conversations with their office, we found out that they are able to give us more of a 20-mile radius and over a 3 to 4 day period during those, so we have some comparisons of traffic coming in. So we are getting more and more detailed in that. We have a relationship with them. They have agreed that they can give us, with our request, 3 different blocks of time throughout the year. So we've kind of identified Holiday Lights Parade and Keizer Fest weekend as our 2, and with a floating one that we can use at any time. And I'm sure with the city's relationship with Travel Salem, there's other opportunities there for any other data that you guys want to pull.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Christopher?
Thank you. I think it's weird that you don't agree. So here's the part that's got me stymied. We had an ad hoc task force that was supposed to negotiate with you in hopes that there'd be agreement, that the chamber said, yep, we agree. This is what our agreement looks like, and this is how much money we need. But what I hear you saying is the staff, the counselors agree with the staff, or the staff agrees with the counselors. Anyway, we're all in agreement, but you guys aren't. And we gave, of the tourism money that the city gets to promote tourism and travel, didn't we give you $42,000 last year?
I believe it was 41,600.
Okay, so I think it's odd that we don't have agreement between the two of us. I think there should have been, I think the counselors, I'm just gonna say, the counselors were supposed to work that out with you and have agreement on what it will cost for the city to buy those services for you. I agree with a lot of what Councilor Starr said. I don't mean the line items amount, but when, you've heard how friendly audiences can be about the decisions that we make as just volunteers and neighbors. We're going to defend that we're giving the Chamber of Commerce $40,000. I know that it costs more than that, but I'm not going to be able to articulate that. When my next door neighbor says, what the heck are you doing giving the Chamber $40,000? What are you paying for? I can say tourism and travel. Well, what does that mean? And so I think there's probably a happy medium in there where we can say, this is what those specific things are, and yet not get down to line item. So I guess the bottom line is, are we ready to adopt this tonight? And here we are, you know, this stuff's been going on for a long time. I was on budget committee last year, and we couldn't decide last year. You remember, Jonathan, you were chair. We couldn't decide last year.
Vice Chair, don't blame me.
Oh, okay, sorry. Who was chair? So it's your fault. Okay.
Sorry, Councilor Cole.
So we couldn't decide as a budget committee last year. Now, I mean, we've just had the long-range planning task force. We're getting ready to go into the next budget. And here y'all are, you still don't have any money. I don't understand, A, what's taken so long. B, why don't you guys agree on the figure that we're going to give you, and C, could we have a little bit more definition of the types of things that money funds, so when our neighbors ask us how we're spending city money, we would be able to articulate that to them, not line item. Those are my, I don't know that we're ready to do this tonight, but I know your dang year's almost up and you need some money.
It is up.
It ended in January 31, right?
Correct.
Madam Mayor, Councilor Christopher, I think that we have two questions before us tonight. The first question being, of the money that was set aside by the Budget Committee that could go to the chamber, can we release that, number one, or some part of that, whatever you all agree on? And number two is the contract moving forward. And so we're happy to take back the information that we have received tonight, and the discussion has been good. We appreciate that. We're happy to take that back and continue to refine the marketing plan. But I don't think that the contract itself needs to be approved tonight. I think that contract doesn't go into effect until probably July 1st at this point, when the city's new budget year starts. So I think there's two questions, in my opinion, there's two questions before us. There's the question of, do we release some or all of the money that's been set aside now for the current year? And then what else would you like to see for the upcoming year? And we'd be happy to take that into account and come back and talk about it.
So following up on the contract itself, this is designed to be the start of a formalized relationship between the City of Keizer and the Chamber of Commerce, a first of its kind for us. Apparently, we are very late to the game because this is traditionally done between two professional organizations. So we're figuring that out, and I really appreciate the time that we've put in to have these conversations, better understand each other's organizations, to bring back a contract. I'm perfectly comfortable with the one we've brought to you tonight. It's up to the council if they want to adopt it or not. But with the amount, if the council wants to increase that amount, of course, that is the discretion of the council as a whole. This is the recommendation of the council team for the funding for this fiscal year just ended. If it is the desire of the council to increase that amount to the 48,000 that the chamber asked for in the original ask, of course, that is up to the council to go ahead and amend for that amount. So we definitely have those options before us. Councilor Christopher, your questions done? Okay. I'm going to go down to Councilor Duran, if you had anything, and I'll circle back.
I don't at this time.
Okay, thank you very much. Looking? Councilor Cross?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. When we had those meetings, I just heard a different figure. I thought it was 40,000 that we gave them last year. So it was not my intention as a recommendation to go lower. So if it was $41,600.22, then that would have been my recommendation. Just so I'm clear, that's what I was told in those meetings.
Is that right?
Madam Mayor and Councilor Cross, Mr. Wood just filled me in. It was $40,000 and the membership fee was on top of that. That's where the number comes from, 41. Our annual membership fee to the chamber. So We're still, I believe we have paid our membership dues, so the 40,000.
I hope so.
So follow up, so we still plan on paying our membership dues, but.
We have paid our membership dues. We
Okay, good.
intend to continue.
We have members in good standing.
So it was 40,000.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Counselor Kohler?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If, my understanding is in Budget Committee, we authorized $40,000. Is that correct?
Well, we didn't authorize any, we put it in
We
contingency.
budgeted.
We have $50,000 available in the contingency item. Did I cover that correctly, Mr.?
Thank
For
you.
this purpose, but you talked about making sure that we held enough back so that, and in the process of negotiating this agreement between the city of Keizer and the Keizer Chamber of Commerce, that once that was concluded and there was a desire to go ahead with the funding, that the funding would be there. So it could be negotiated in good faith. Follow up?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. So we have budgeted $50,000 at this point for this year, and the budget cycle is coming up. They would need to come and propose whatever it is they needed for the next budget cycle.
There is $50,000 within the contingency amount of the tourism and occupancy, transient lodging tax, or otherwise known as TOT money available. And yes, they expect to get a request from, like we normally do, from our non-departmental agencies.
Thank you.
And then the purpose of the contract is that we would have an ongoing agreement, what that expectation was, to make it simpler between the two organizations in making that budget request going forward. And that's the purpose of this agreement, is to simplify that, and also with the ongoing events that are year over year, to make that simpler, make it clear that there's an agreement that the city will continue to either do fee waivers or to provide the in-kind service, support services such as for the parades, and put that into the budget. Council President Starr,
Thank you,
question?
Madam Mayor. Yep. So there's a lot of paper in this whole agenda item, and maybe I'm not seeing it. But the only thing in regards to termination of the agreement that's in here is Section 8 that talks about a 90-day written notice by either party, or if our Keizer City budget for any given year does not approve the funding. Otherwise, I read this as a perpetual agreement with no there's dates for their review, but I don't see at the end here where it says this is going to be, this expires on such and such date in this agreement. So can somebody tell me when that is?
So maybe there's a way to better write it in the agreement, but it's all budgeted. It's basically a one-year agreement because it's contingent upon approval by the budget committee funding it. So, but yeah, Mr. Lindsay might have a better way to write that.
I could even point out, thank you, Mayor. I should have waited for permission. The section 5 is the term, and so that also speaks to that.
So Section 5.
But you're right, it's kind of silent in the termination portion, but the
Okay,
term.
it's effective. So we're going to be back. I want to be efficient with everybody's time.
Yeah.
So if we pass this today and it's signed, which I can support the 40,000 recommendation, I can support that. But then when are all of the presentations going to happen that are written in here? Because it talks about a presentation in March, or within so many days after March, and it talks about a presentation so many days after September, but it's going to expire before September, and they're already late if they're not presenting after. Do you see what I'm saying? I think there's some things that are a little clunky about the agreement as it is written. And frankly, if I were the three very patient people sitting at the speaker's table. I'd be slightly beyond annoyed if I had to come back and redo this thing on June 30th.
Mr. Thompson?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councilor Starr, even if you pass this tonight, it can't go into effect because our board hasn't passed it. So it requires both
So
parties.
again, like
Right.
you'd be less
Exactly.
than
So,
60 days.
and just to be clear, we're not, and I'll speak for my colleagues here, we're not annoyed. We're here basically presenting where we are in the process of the contract. So that goes back to the 2-question thing that we discussed earlier. The first question is, can we release the money that's in contingency for the year that we've already concluded? And the second question is, this is where we are in the contract. What would the rest of you who weren't part of the committee like to see from us? Because obviously we could not meet with all of you in committee without Mr. Lindsay losing his mind. So, I am not at all annoyed that we are having this conversation about this first conversation about the contract with all of you. In fact, I think we expected it.
Okay,
So,
good.
Yeah.
Good. So I see, Madam Mayor, I see two phases for me. I see one, the money piece of it. And then number two, I see some more refinement on that marketing plan. And maybe that comes in the budget committee when you do the requests for next year. But I think that there's some opportunity to do some more refining and targeting of timelines and so forth in that marketing plan. That I think if anybody were sitting there and we're, that our neighbors, as Councilor Christopher said, ask us what that 50,000. I'd like to be able to say, look at this pretty awesome marketing plan. It tells you what they're going to do quarter by quarter.
And I also point out that marketing plan you have there is an outline. It's not meant to be a final product. It never was meant to be a final product. It was meant to get the discussion started because, as I mentioned, the marketing plan isn't due until 30 days after this contract is executed. So we're getting ahead of the game so we can get the feedback and all that kind of stuff. But that's an outline. It's not meant to be necessarily a completed plan. It's to start the discussion.
And I would encourage details. Like I can remember when I was in high school and college working in internships, we would do the little hashtags when people would call for a certain subject matter, or they would come into the office to ask a certain question or ask for a relocation packet or what have you. I think those kinds of data points are really, really important for not just how the money is spent, but also understanding engagement within our community and how and where we can do better at building and putting resources behind engaging our entire community. So I think
absolutely
specific data points, not just estimates, are going to be something that I look for.
Absolutely. And I would point you to section 1D of the contract, which has, web hits and social media activity and informational packets mailed out. Those are all hard data points.
But it also, there's another part where it talks about only providing estimates.
Absolutely. And we did track those phone calls in the past. And the problem is when I call the chamber office and I talk about a chamber activity and a Keizer Fest activity and a Percy activity with the staff, how do you record that phone call? Do you record that as 3 phone calls? Do you record that as 1 phone call with 3? I mean, so that's why we settled on the estimate language, because we don't want data tracking to become somebody's full-time job, because we just don't have the horsepower for that. With 2 people in the office, we don't have the horsepower for that. So
I'm still looking for specifics, but
And I will tell you, Keizer Art Association that I'm involved with, I write grants based on
metrics,
informed estimates. And what I mean by that is literally their hashtags on the days, and then we total it for the month. So when I go back and put in how many visitors showed up, in my tabulation, you'd be 1. Even though you talked about 3 different subjects, you'd be 1. Pick however you want to count it, and then that becomes the way that you count it. They're still just estimates, but when we have to fill that out for grant funding, we have to have something to rely on. And I have a jaunty little calendar that literally has hashtags, circling the week, circling the month, and I can go through and add 12 numbers. And I think that's enough to prove, and nobody, you know, the grant police are not going to come and say, I don't know about Monday if there was really 5 people. So anything like that, though, helps build that substantiation to say, we know there was at least this many. Now, there was probably more, and that's exactly what we know. We know there's probably more, but it gives you at least some base, and it's still an estimate. But I'm prepared to give you $40,000. But I'm not prepared to adopt the agreement.
So we'll do this in, anything further for our esteemed panel? Thank you very much, appreciate it. Let me go.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, Mr. Brown.
Just wanted to answer the question about the months and the clunkiness. So that really is intended, those months were picked very specifically or intentionally because they match up with their fiscal year and then also after Keizer Fest. So it was thinking about it more systemically over a long-term relationship.
Okay. So, I'd like to put a motion on the table. Council President Starr, did you want to do that, or do you want?
Well, I'm going to look to Mr. Lindsay, the coach over here to my left. If we want to do a motion for the funding, and then do we need a motion to table or direct more work to be done on the marketing plan and the agreement?
Yeah, you could either table it for a date specific to try to drive it that way, or you could table it until there's an agreed upon agreement. Well, you don't. I guess if you're asking for parliamentary sort of cleanliness, sure, just table it for a time in the future. But if you want to do a separate minute motion to release funds out of the TOT contingency for this, and then I assume that that you'd have to have a supplemental budget at some point, so you'll see it again anyway.
So one motion for the funding, and then a second motion to bring back a more refined and detailed marketing plan without deliverables and timelines.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will muddle my way through motions.
Let's start with the motion regarding the funding.
I move to release the $40,000 in funding to the Keizer Chamber of Commerce.
Looking for a second?
Second.
So moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council direct staff to release the funding for Keizer Chamber of Commerce in the amount of $40,000 for this fiscal year, of the city's fiscal year. Is that correct? Okay. Any further discussion? Councilor Kohler?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think, can we consider splitting the difference between the 40,000 and what was actually budgeted and make it 45?
Would you like to ask for an amendment? To amend the motion to 45,000?
I will make that motion.
Does the mover
To
accept?
split the difference.
No, no, I don't accept. I'd like a conversation about why it was recommended, and I saw that, Councilor Parsons. I'd like to wonder, why was it recommended at 40,000 first?
Understood. So you don't accept the amendment. Would you like to make that a motion?
Not at this point.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to understand why the recommendation from the work group, which were the 3 counselors, was 40,000, and now that's what I want to understand.
I can give you my,
Councilor
I can
Duran.
give you my reasoning. Because of the, some of the things on the marketing plan will do for, even though on the 2024, it says, on some of the stuff, even on the 2024 budget, is still stuff they haven't done. So that is part of the future. So we're giving money basically for last year, their last year. It's still the end of our year, but it's their last year. So there's things there that have not been accomplished for last year. So that's where my dollar figure came from. It's, you say you're doing all of this, but there's a couple things out of here that haven't been done. So I came up with a number at 40,000 that I was comfortable with. So that's where that came from me.
Counselor Cross?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Really, I came about it the same reasoning that the future marketing action plan has a lot more items in it, so then it gives us that growth of 50,000. If we started at 50,000, all of a sudden we know how tight our budget is going to be. It could be like, well, we're doing all these, then it goes to 60,000. So it gave us that wiggle room moving forward, and I just felt like that was more of a fiduciary responsibility on our end.
Great,
Thank you.
And then I was comfortable with the full 50 when we were having the conversation because of the cost of inflation for providing services, the cost of marketing materials and so forth, recognizing that everybody has had increased cost. But to move this forward, I was willing to compromise at the 40 to get this done for this year.
And Counselor Cross, you were the liaison to the chamber, right?
Any further discussion on the funding? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed signify by saying no. Motion passes unanimously. Okay.
Ooh, second
So-
motion, second motion. Yeah, you can go.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you. So the next one is on the agreement.
And you can just table it for staff to work on the items and for the stuff to be done that you were asking about. Because, I mean, there's a record of all of the stuff you're asking
Okay,
about.
so you
if
don't
that
need a
makes sense.
motion.
I don't agree.
Okay.
So
You-
it has to be a motion.
You should table it just so you can move to the next item.
It has to be a motion to
Yeah.
table.
Yeah.
It's not be moved and seconded to table it to a date.
Yeah,
there'll
no,
have to be
what I
a
was
vote.
talking about was if she wants to make a simplified motion that tables it to do all of the work that you mentioned, it's in the record. Because we heard you talking about it a lot, about
Oh, gotcha,
all the
gotcha,
stuff that you
gotcha,
want us to
gotcha.
do. Does that make sense?
So I move to table the contract and agreement or marketing plan to allow staff to work on refining and developing metrics and deliverables and timeframes.
Second.
It's moved and seconded to table the agreement with the Keizer Chamber of Commerce for staff to refine with, what'd you say? Metrics?
Metrics, deliverables, and timeframes.
Timeframes. Okay, discussion. And one of my concerns is with using those specifics of metrics, timeframes, and so forth, is we're going to start getting into the area of micromanaging, which is something that I felt that we had wanted to move away from. And I don't want to get us into the nitty-gritty of operating the organization, a professional organization. So while I appreciate, the detail, I want to make sure we don't get into the weeds and into their business, so I'm going to be a no. Anything further? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed signify by saying no.
No.
No. Hands for noes. Noes are Clark, Parsons, and Duran. Motion passes 4-3. Okay, that takes us to,
A break.
well, we've got a lot to get done.
It's 8:15.
I know it's 8:15, but if we're supposed to end at 9 o'clock, do we want to tack that on to the end? Counselor Cross.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Maybe I can ask a question of what do we need to get, if we know that we're at the end of 45 minutes and a lot of guests are here in the audience for a specific reason, what can we table to the next city council meeting so we're done at 9? If you recommended.
I think we can push the
Please get
Keizer
E done.
Fest parade and vendors. I don't know how much discussion you want to have about that, but it could probably be done without impacting the schedule at the next meeting. And then the CDC items and everything else really could probably be pushed to the next meeting without jamming us up too much.
Follow up. So couldn't we just there was, well, Mr. Lindsay or Council President Starr will have to walk me through, couldn't we just go straight to F, G, and H to be considerate of the audience?
Well, I appreciate that. I think E is going to be pretty quick. Generally, that is done without a lot of conversation for the street vendors for Keizer Fest. Just get this done.
And just follow up to that, I can only not take a bio break for so long, and we're going on 2 hours and 15 minutes.
I understand that. All right, we will take a break for 5 minutes. We are in recess. like to call the Keizer City Council back into session. We are going to resume with our agenda, item 8E, which is resolution authorizing a temporary suspension of the ordinance prohibiting street vendors and a resolution authorizing temporary use and signs subject to conditions for Keizer Fest 2025. City Manager?
This item will look familiar to you because we've done it for many years. This year, the Keizer Fest Parade and Keizer Fest has moved together in May, again, from, I guess, what it was previously. The fees and waivers that you'd be granting has an approximate value of $6,650. The event is May 15th through May 18th with the parade on May 17th. So the staff recommends adoption of the resolution authorizing the temporary suspension of the ordinance and prohibiting street vendors. Council can then adopt the resolution authorizing temporary uses subject to conditions for the Bloomin' Irish Day Parade.
All right, thank you very much. Any questions on the request of the staff report? Council President Starr?
This one's for Mr. Coach Lindsay. Can I do them all together, or do we have to do them one at a time, each with each with a separate vote?
It's actually easier to do them independently.
Okay.
Thanks.
Council President
if it
Starr?
were
Yeah.
going to be unanimous, which it probably will be, it would be a no-brainer, but we always want to know who the votes are, so.
Okay.
Okay. Council President Starr, would you like to start with the first one?
Sure. I move that Keizer City Council adopt Resolution R2025, authorizing a temporary suspension of the ordinance prohibiting street vendors.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council adopt Resolution R 2025, authorizing a temporary suspension of the ordinance prohibiting street vendors. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed signify by saying no. Hearing no objection, motion passes unanimously. Council President Starr, number two.
I move the Keizer City Council adopt Resolution R2025, authorizing temporary use and signs subject to the conditions for Keizer Fest 2025.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council adopt Resolution R 2025, authorizing temporary use and signs subject to conditions for Keizer Fest 2025. Any discussion? Councilor Duran.
Can this be added into the contract so that we don't have to do this every year?
I believe, I'm gonna look across the aisle here, or the table for, I feel like there was one part that has to be done.
Yeah, it is a little bit tricky. Years and years ago, we did build into the development code because we have provisions for the sign code. So the sign code specifically is an issue where it gives council the ability to approve kind of anything on a temporary basis for what's termed as like a city festival. I think ultimately if that was a direction that we wanted to go, we'd maybe work with Mr. Lindsay and try to figure out how to modify that to make it work.
Okay,
Thank you.
so not yet. Okay. And we all really enjoy opening the sign code. Yeah, that would, said no one ever. All right, anything further? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed signify by saying no. You okay? Hearing no objection, motion passes unanimously. That takes us to item 8F, discussion advisory recommendations from the Community Diversity Engagement Committee. City Manager?
Madam Mayor and Council, Mr. Wood has this item.
All right, Mr. Wood.
Madam Mayor, City Council, at the March 3rd, 2025 regular session meeting, the City Council requested that the CDEC review the proposed changes to Resolution 2021-3225. That is a resolution establishing the CDEC. In addition, the committee was asked to discuss changing the committee name. The committee did meet on March 6th and made the following advisory recommendations. These recommendations are to feed into the next agenda item, so there doesn't necessarily need to be a lot of discussion at this point. However, you can use those to inform yourself for the next item. The specific recommendations on purpose item number 3, this is going to the Appendix A. They want to include the resolution R 2020-3135, adopting the statement of values, justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion, and that would be a reference item. On purpose item 4A, include active identification and elimination of barriers to participation. On purpose item 4F, include intentionally seeking out underrepresented and underserved communities. Under item 4, membership, retain the existing appointment process with appointees serving at large rather than as personal representatives of the appointing counselor. Also under membership, retain the voting youth liaison. And also recommend the counselors use a standardized method for appointments, including questions in the scoring rubric created by the CDEC. And then term of office, retain the existing 3-year staggered terms. And with that, that's the end of the staff report. Thank you.
And one more.
Oh.
Sorry.
The last one was the CDEC recommend retaining the existing committee name.
All right, thank you very much. So at this point, we could do it one of two ways, take all this under advisement and then go to the next agenda item about integrating these in, or we can discuss them now and decide which ones we want to advance to item G, which is the resolution to amend the CDEC and that resolution. So that's one of the two ways we can do that. So how about we just move down the list, see if there's any questions on the recommendations from the Community Diversity Engagement Committee. The purpose item number 3, this was simply an addition to add the reference, the resolution number on the Keizer Statement of Values, Justice, Equity, Diversity, Inclusion that was adopted in 2020. So that's just a reference. Any questions on that one? So
I do have a question on that, Madam Mayor.
Okay.
Do the other, excuse me, I remember, and somebody might have to refresh my memory a little bit. I remember there was conversation about making all of the Appendix A of each committee consistent and the same. Do the others have, like, does Parks Board have reference to anything, any resolution or ordinance, or does traffic safety? I'm just wondering, just because that was brought up last time.
Not to my, I'm trying to think here, just utilizing my memory. And on the spot, I cannot think of any that reference other resolutions necessarily that talk about, you know, the kind of their purpose or their task, but
one
that
thing,
is, I'm sorry, go
I
ahead.
was thinking of Planning Commission, which has a statutory reference.
Yeah.
So that would be, make it unique. And budget has statutory references that also make it unique. And for the Community Diversity Engagement Committee, its inception was based on that resolution R 2020-3135.
And it is
So-
already in the current resolution. It is referenced in
It is-
it is referenced in the resolution already. The existing resolution that established the CDEC, it does reference the resolution adopting those statement of values. So it is already in the current resolution, correct? Yes.
Correct. So it's in, yeah, it was recommended to go ahead and add that to the purpose item 3, so people would easily know where it came from.
And Madam Mayor, can I?
Mr.
also
Lindsay?
Interject. So in the iteration that you're going to also be, is put before you, the Appendix A that was, we attempted to do all of the amendments that you guys asked for. We actually put in all of those tasks under the purpose section. So we just took away tasks, and those actually dropped into the purpose section. And it doesn't name it, it's still number 3 under that section. It says resolution, but it doesn't say the resolution number. It says acting on the values included in that resolution. So it's not that we completely were dismissive of that. We thought that the mission was to take out tasks because that made it more in alignment with
all the others that just had a purpose.
Okay. The number 2 is the purpose item number 4, include the active identification, elimination of barriers to participation. So this is a recommendation to add that language to 4A. Any questions about moving that one forward? Councilor Cross.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It seems to me that A and B are alike.
Let me go back to that page. Oh, that'll make it easy. Thank you. Okay, so, if I may. So A reads, collaboration with, council, other city committees, commissions, and neighbor associations to increase active participation, recommend culturally responsive actions. B, collaboration with other organizations, historical, arts, culture, business organizations, faith communities, et cetera. And the addition here for the first one, 4A, is to include active identification, elimination of barriers to participation. So in the,
They seem a lot alike is what I'm saying, is that they could be one sentence. Or one action item.
Yeah.
okay, so the way, if we were to adopt, let me take this in 2 parts. So if we were to adopt 4A into this, it would read then collaboration with council, other city committees, commissions, and neighbor associations to, get my sentence here, increase active participation, active identification and elimination of barriers to participation, and recommend culturally responsive action. So it inserts somewhere in there. So the difference between the 2 is one is internal, city committees, commissions, neighbor associations. The other are externals, with other organizations outside of city control.
Well, we could put internal and external organizations, i.e.
Okay. Thoughts? Council President Starr?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So, I love good collaboration, but I have also heard, loud and clear the, conversation, from that maybe it's not clear what's been accomplished by the committee. So I was wondering if we could make collaboration can be, it's not sometimes very visible. And so I was wondering if in addition to that collaboration, we could do some more action-oriented, maybe tasks, and now that they took the task section out, but a purpose, something like, because I wrote down these 2 items related that were very similar to 4A and 4B. But I would like to see the group create an engagement action plan. So collaboration, yes, on 4B, but what does a collaboration action plan, like create that plan on how and what that collaboration is going to look like and what those action steps are. That way there's something tangible to bring back that you can present to, and that would, I think that would be, that would, I think, directly address some of the, maybe the potential feelings that the committee, and I kind of take a little umbrage to the criticism that they didn't do anything because I sat on that committee for 2 years. So that was a little hard to swallow. But recognizing that that feedback has been given, I would encourage that verbiage to be changed to create a proposed action plan. And I think you could do that for both A and B, because I also put down here develop an action plan to attend each city committee twice a year. So there's more action related to the interaction between the different committees. So we're directly addressing some of the feedback that was given that we didn't accomplish anything, but. And then I would, pardon? What? Well, number two, it says collaboration, and I think.
No.
What?
Number 2 says using what's heard to create recommendations for action plans for increasing community engagement and communication on progress in civic processes.
I write and read a lot of things every day, and I think number 2 is really, there's action in it, but it is so broad that I think you're setting them up for. Do you know what I'm saying? I think it's setting them up to, without any specific action items, because I'm just saying, I heard loud and clear from people that they said we didn't do anything for 2 years. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, little hurt on that one. But if you say create an action plan to engage with council, other committees, commissions, part of that action plan can be develop a schedule rotation or assignments to attend each committee at least 2 times a year and interact with them, right? Develop or create a proposed action plan for increased outreach to other organizations. I think we tried this, but we had the verbiage of collaborate with other organizations, and it just, I think you need a specific, if they had a specific action plan that they created and they brought back, I think it would be a genesis for true dialogue and conversation between council, who is asking for increased engagement, and they're bringing a proposed action plan. That doesn't mean that the council will, I think it's just an opportunity to create dialogue, and it's an opportunity for them to do that. And I think you do it with both 4A and 4B.
So here's a thought, put it into the top line for 4.
Perfect.
So to assist in developing action plan recommendations for community engagement.
Yeah.
And that then applies to everything.
It's an action. I think every item, hold
Then
on.
all of them will get that.
Stand by. Every item gets an action plan.
Yeah. Sounds like, okay. Okay, so move that one forward for that one. On the 4A, active identification, elimination of barriers to participation. That is a specific that was discussed at the last meeting to make sure that part of that action plan, if you will, has an eye to identifying and eliminating barriers to participation in both civic processes and also connection with the community. I'm going to go to Councilor Cross, then Councilor Christopher.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Wouldn't now that be blanketed under what we just said, the action? That can be part of their action. That Council President Starr just mentioned about making an engagement action plan. I would think part of the engagement action plan, they could put that in there.
Yes. And have we called out barriers in this? Because that's a very specific body of work.
Maybe, can I add something? Maybe
course.
that's part of maybe that comes back as part of the action plan.
But I agree.
I don't think you need to call it out, because I think that will come back as part. If they identify any of them, that's going to be included in the action plan.
I would think follow-up that some of these right here can be put in the action plan, and we can go back to the committee to say, here you go, these are, maybe they didn't make this appendix, but they can very well easily be put in your action plan.
Okay. So not
That
move,
way it's rotating. I mean, maybe it's something else that is worked on.
so this, we will leave that to the discretion of the CDEC to integrate that into the action plans that are bringing forward either internally or externally. Is that what I'm hearing? Council President Starr?
Oh, sorry, I have more
Okay, but,
items to add.
well, I understand that. But that's how we want to move 4A forward, is to make sure that,
This can all be put in.
under action plan, okay. Looking at,
2, 3, like, I mean, really.
okay. So for, the other one was, for 4F, which currently reads, assist in identifying leaders and build leadership capacity of underrepresented and underserved communities. They want to, word it to include intentionally seeking out underrepresented, underserved communities.
I think
So
that's-
strengthening the language from identifying to intentionally seeking is the recommendation. Council President Starr.
I think all of that's going to be captured in an action plan.
Me too.
I think when you ask them to bring an action plan back for increased engagement, I think all of those, I think, and if I were writing an action plan, all of those items would be included.
Councilor Cross.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I agree with Council President Starr. I mean, these really could be the opening paragraph for an action plan. If they, or I mean, a lot of these, that's engaged. 2 and 3 could be in the engagement plan. We're talking about 3 right
Okay,
now.
okay, so items 2 and 3, so the 4A and 4F to say yes, and please include these in your action plan.
Yes.
I mean, I'm not going to tell them what to include in their action plan, but if I were working as a liaison to the council, I would encourage that to be part of an action plan.
And this is their recommendations back to us that they would like to ensure that they are including active identification, elimination of barriers, and intentionally seeking out
But I think
people.
But I think I think we need to leave that to the committee, not, at risk of eating my own words from our last conversation, not get in the weeds of the management of what the committee is putting into the action plan.
So I think the message back to the committee is that, yes, and please include that in your action plan. Is that what I'm hearing?
If that's what they come up with.
But not yes
But-
on this, adding it to the appendix.
But not putting it into the list, leaving it more open for how the committee chooses to put together the action plan. Is that correct? Okay. Membership for, the committee recommends retain the existing appointment process with appointees serving at large rather than being personally appointed by the counselors according to the VCC. So leaving things as they are is the recommendation of the,
That's how I read it.
yes, that's the recommendation, is leave things as they are.
Appointed by the,
So, but they're appointed by the counselors, but then they go into a 3-year term with staggered rotating terms rather than being reappointed every 2 years concurrent with city councilors. So that is their recommendation.
didn't we already vote on that?
You did? Right. I understand that, and we sent it back to them also for their recommendations, and this is what they're coming back with, and they disagree with the vote of the council, so, for the record. So, we asked, and they told us that they just don't agree with the decision.
Okay, so I'm not crazy. We did vote on that.
Yes.
I mean, I am crazy, but we did vote on it. Okay.
That's what we got.
Okay.
It's almost 9 o'clock.
I know.
Yep.
Thank you.
We did vote on it,
Okay.
and it was incorporated into the council rules of procedure,
Perfect. Okay.
the way that you wanted it done.
Okay, thank you.
They also recommend retaining the youth liaison as a voting member. And again, I know at the last meeting, the city council said no, but
It was a
they believe that it's a,
4-3 vote, so it was close, but we voted on it.
I'm fine with that, so.
it was voted, yeah, I understand it was voted on, and there's their recommendation to retain that as is.
I don't
Councilor Cross.
I was one of those no votes, but on that recommendation, I'll switch around, so I think it would be the other way, 4-3, that we
Okay.
can retain that voting youth
So do we need to vote on that?
We'll have to vote on that to move it forward.
Can we just do them one at a time as they come up?
Up until this point, we've just been referring to the next.
But if we're voting on a revote, if you want, I think we should vote on it now so we
Okay.
don't get lost.
So we need a motion to change the position of council regarding the voting status of the youth member of the CDEC to retain as a voting member as is.
Coach?
Madam Member, or
Mr. Brown?
I think Joe can confirm this. I think somebody who voted against it
Yeah.
has to bring it up, so.
And a motion to reconsider.
Cross.
Okay, that was last meeting, so yeah, it would be a motion to reconsider. So we need a motion to reconsider the vote on this, the youth liaison voting position. So you would have to make that motion.
I move to reconsider the voting youth liaison position for CDEC.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to reconsider the vote on the voting status of the youth liaison for CDEC. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed signify by saying no.
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 Okay, any of the noes? Motion passes 4-3. The noes are Kohler, no, it fails. It has to be 5. For a motion to reconsider, isn't it 2/3?
I believe a motion to reconsider is,
Hang on.
Watch out your head.
Oh, God.
no, it's a majority, because it's just reconsidering.
Oh, so it's a majority.
I don't think that's true.
Our city attorney just clarified that a majority is appropriate.
Okay, because I remember, oh, no, it was suspending the rules, it has to be
Yeah.
5. That's correct. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
I've had to go through and mark all these. Okay, so motion passes 4-3. The noes are Kohler, Christopher, and Duran. So now we take up that, the motion again regarding the voting status of the youth member to be a voting member, retain that status of being a voting member on the Community Diversity Engagement Committee. Need a motion?
I move to retain the position of voting youth liaison on the Community Diversity Engagement Committee.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to retain the voting position of the youth member of the Community Diversity Engagement Committee. Discussion? All in favor signify by, oh, I'm sorry, I've got a, Counselor Kohler, did you,
Yes, ma'am.
okay?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If we did that, this would be the only committee that the youth is a voting member. And I'm not sure that we want to put that precedent out there. Do we do that then with the Parks Board and we do that with the city council? Where do we start and stop that if we do that?
Hasn't it been a precedent for 3 years?
Council President
Sorry,
Starr?
hasn't it been a precedent for 3 years? We had a youth voting member for 3 years.
City councilors on that committee too. Yeah. That committee's been across the board.
I'm just saying, the youth voted for 3 years. So,
And I would concur that this was very intentional on this committee. They're not voting on budgetary items. They're voting on policy for voice and representation in our community. We did have this very in-depth conversation when we had an issue with the appointment of a minor to the volunteer coordinating committee. And that's when we did change our rules that unless specified by resolution or by statute, budget committee cannot have a minor because they have to be an elector. Which means that they have to be eligible to vote. I believe the same thing is true of planning commission, that they have to be an elector. So we do have some that are limited in that regard, but where we have the opportunity for youth vote, and in this particular case, since we are actively seeking diverse input from across different sectors, including age, I thought, I supported it when we formed this committee, that the youth be a voting member, and I support it now. Further discussion? Councilor Kohler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just think that it would, if we put it back the way, or excuse me, if we had it the way we voted for it just last meeting, that what it does is that brings that in compliance or in the same way all of our other committees are. And so we've had city councilors who have been voting members of this committee, which we changed. And we've had youth members that have been voting. And so by changing those two, the way that we did that, that was to bring it in compliance with all the other committees that we have.
Councilor Cross?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I think that we have to meet in the middle on some of these things, and that's why I changed my vote.
I still love you.
Okay, I love you.
Any further discussion? I'm not touching that. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed signify by saying no.
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 Motion passes 4-3. The noes are Kohler, Christopher, and Duran.
Same.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. That then takes us to number 6. Recommend counselors use the standardized method of appointments using the questions and scoring rubric that's been created by the Community Diversity Engagement Committee. So it's as a recommendation, not a requirement, but it's a tool that's been provided by the CDEC for your reference. And that could be referred to as a resource in the as resolution if we so choose. Thoughts? Yes, no, maybe so? Okay, you don't want to move that one forward? And then the last term of office would go with, this is on retaining the existing, 3-year staggered terms, and this goes with number 4, if we retain the existing appointment process, which I'm getting from the council is still a majority saying no. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. The last item is the recommendation of the Community Diversity Engagement Committee to retain their existing name. They were given the examples that were provided to them in discussion. I felt that the name best reflected the committee.
Madam Mayor, can
Yes.
I go back and add some suggestions that I also had to consider adding to Appendix A that I thought would be tangible, helpful outcomes and deliverables for the committee that I just, as I was reading through this, I jotted some things down.
So what I might recommend, because these are the advisory recommendations
Can I
from the
see
committee, and then can we do that as part of the resolution itself that has the Appendix A in it?
Sure, that works.
Because that would actually be in that agenda item.
You got 3 minutes.
That's why I wanted to get them out there because we have 3 minutes.
Unless you guys decide that we're going to stop at this point. Okay, so with that, the last item is on the recommendation from the committee that they retain their existing name. Do you want to move that forward into the next resolution, to retain the name as is?
I'm good with that. Good.
Okay, we're moving it, I'm getting a head nods from a majority, but do we want to say consensus or not? Are we okay with that?
Keep the name.
Okay, if there's any objection, then it will read in the record it was majority, not consensus. I want to be accurate. Okay,
Keep the name.
I'm not getting disagreement on consensus to keep the name.
Correct.
Okay, all right. So with those recommendations, we will move then into item 8G, which is the resolution amending the Community Diversity Engagement Committee, amending Resolution R 2021-3225. So
Do a motion to extend for 15 minutes.
I would entertain a motion to extend the time for the city council meeting an additional 15 minutes till
So moved.
9:15. It's been moved by Council President Starr, seconded by Councilor Parsons. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, signify by saying no. Motion passes unanimously. We are extended to 9:15. Let's look at then, G, there it is. Get to the right page. Mr. Brown? Let's go to Mr. Lindsay.
Yes, Mr. Lindsay.
Mr. Lindsay, you're up.
I'll take it. I'll try to be very brief because I think everybody pretty much knows where we're at and how we got here from December. Although, yeah, exactly. What I will say, just because in a very contemporary way, the changes that I've already amended, if you're going to be passing this as amended, I've scratched out under the membership on page 99, I scratched out the word non in front of voting for the youth liaison. There's a may appoint in that sentence.
I'm sorry, a what?
May appoint instead of a shall appoint, and I don't know if you wanted to leave it may or a shall. As sort of a first, are you looking to change that or?
How is it, if I may, how is it worded in the other ones where we have the VCC, Volunteer Coordinating Committee, for those who are following acronyms, appoint the youth members to other committees? Is that a may or a shall?
I believe they're mays, because we did try to be, we try to be consistent.
So, well, leave it as a may, because if we don't get applicants, then we can't hold ourselves up, but it is then open every year to have a youth member, voting member appointed to the committee, correct?
And
So we'll leave that as the may.
the other amendment that I started to make, because of the discussion tonight, was under purpose, section 4, the sentence starts to assist in developing action, I put the word plans.
Yes.
And then instead of recommendations, I said to be recommended for council approval.
Yes.
For community engagement and civic process in the following areas.
What you said.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is
So
everybody good with that?
Those are the two changes I have so far.
Okay, would you read that one more time so folks listening can pick up on that?
Yeah.
Went a little fast.
So-
Say it again.
So it used to just say action recommendations, but now it says to assist in developing action plans to be recommended for council approval for community engagement and civic processes in the following areas.
Boom.
Okay, so those are the two changes so far that we've added to this.
Okay.
If you were to pass it as amended, those would become part of it.
Okay. So those are those are the two we brought forward from the CDEC recommendations, kind of integrating a couple of them together with this reframing. So it's more comprehensive. Okay. Anything else? Oh, then, Council President Starr, you had some changes that you wanted to bring forward.
I'd like to add, suggest adding an item for consideration by council, that the CDEC committee develop content for an outreach and engagement rack card for consideration by the city council. I think we don't have anything right now to use, and I think that if we're gonna, well, put a pin in that one, because I had another point where I thought, and this kind of plays into item C, where we talked about collaborating and community opportunities. My words were, and we may have addressed this in the action plan change in verbiage, but create an action plan for engagement in community events. So we have several events throughout, but things like what's an action plan look like to get a variety of different groups to participate? And when I say different groups, I mean, maybe it's the neighborhood associations, maybe it's different faith communities, whatever it looks like to participate in the different community events. That could be the cleanup at the Civic Center. It could be the parade. Mr. Coach Lindsay.
Thanks. So if you look at number C, or 4C, you could add the words community events.
Thank
So
you.
at the end, so collaborating in community opportunities to have conversation, celebration, relationship building, and community events.
Participation in community events.
Well, it says collaborating in and then also participate.
I just think, well, we're leaving I think collaboration without the word action plan and creating, to me, just left the group open to some people not seeing tangible outcomes and tangible deliverables. So I wanted to say something like create an action plan or create an action plan for engagement in community events.
Rather than collaboration.
But
I like that better too.
but that's me.
But since we are adding that to the header for this whole section.
I'm fine with that. I mean,
That
I
actually
just
would then
want,
now apply to everything under 4, A, B, C, D, E, and F.
And I'm
will
good.
all go back to action plan. So,
but I think our staff have heard the event, and just
Okay.
want to make sure I get the rest of them in there.
Okay,
So
go ahead.
We've got the RAC card, and that would, developing content for council consideration on what that looks like for engagement and outreach. And then I put, connect, and I'm open to wording on this, but I really think that we could use some focused work on how do we engage our youth, right? We have several committees that don't have youth liaisons. So while I love that we were having a conversation about whether youth were voting or not, the reality is we don't have youth participating on some of the committees as it is. So until we get that, so somehow, what is that? Creating a proposed engagement plan for council consideration for youth engagement.
Okay, so we want to do a call out specifically for youth engagement under 4.
Yes, please.
Could you?
I'm trying to figure out where it's
Can't
going to
you
fit in.
put it somewhere in these two, youth engagement?
That's what I was trying to figure out where it would fit under one of the existing.
I would like
Oh,
youth to have their own
yeah.
line item, because sometimes youth get forgotten.
So, because I'm looking at F, assist in identifying leaders, builds leadership capacity, underrepresented, serve communities, with a special, I mean, if you're looking at a call out for youth, but do you want that one to be separate from F? Okay, so G,
You'll forget, I've spent 10 years advocating for youth. I want them to have their own line item.
so this would be,
You want me to read it again?
youth, I'm trying to, yes, please.
Create an engagement plan focused on youth recruitment for consideration by city council.
Okay, so a youth engagement plan. And the consideration for city council is, at the top of 4, so that would be repetitive.
Okay,
So-
potato, but the youth have their own line, so I'm good with that.
Exactly. On the RAC card, I would suggest that that would be part of a recommendation from CDEC that we can send to them rather than put into the specific resolution tasks. Because you were getting into.
Aren't these reviewed every 2 years?
I'm not understanding the question.
Well, if these committees and the tasks or the purpose or the appendix or addendum or, we review them every 2 years, so I would like to see it in their Appendix A. I think it's a task that has been needed, and I think it's something that we should have documented and attached to the resolution for them to bring back to city council.
So since we're not doing the tasks anymore,
Okay, their purpose,
so,
make it number 5.
so I appreciate the specificity. We're gonna have to break this down because there are some things that, I appreciate the overall idea, especially bringing forth youth. This is one I'm gonna say we're getting in the weeds. But I want to go back up to number 3, when, Mr. Lindsay, when you were talking about the changes in, number 3, we're actually gonna put the resolution number in there. Because right now it just says the resolution.
Okay.
So we'll just put the number in so people know what we're talking about.
So can I ask for clarification, Madam Mayor? You don't want to put it into the Appendix A, but you want city council to send it to CDEC?
We're making a number of recommendations. We just had that conversation about things we didn't want to bring forward from their recommendations that they want to include, such as,
Right, but I'm just saying, so that's what I'm asking. I'm asking for clarification. So the options are, we can either include it in Appendix A, or we can bring it up at city council to vote on whether to send the task to CDEC. Is that what I'm hearing?
yeah,
So
we
I'm
can,
gonna call the question and make a motion to include,
we don't have a motion
adding.
on the table.
Well, I'm putting one on the table. Can I put a motion on the table?
So,
You may if you're recognized.
So I'm trying to understand the purpose of the motion. If it's to amend something that we're not working on yet, that's not, if we want to put the motion on the table to adopt the resolution as amended, and then make that, recommend that change, so we can move on it separately.
She tried that. You didn't let her do it. She wants to add item number 5.
I understand that, but since we're talking about the different elements, we need to put the motion on the table to adopt the resolution, and then we can work through the different items to be adding that in. So that, if we're ready to move forward with the motion on adopting, let me get back to this. Adopting the resolution R 2025, amending the Community Diversity Engagement Committee, but this is as amended. And Mr. Lindsay can go over those changes that we have already brought forward, then we can add different ones as we want to go forward with that. Is that correct? I see you.
If somebody wants to make that motion, we could work it that way, or you could make a motion that you wanted to make separately, either way.
Okay, so do you want to
It just takes being recognized and you can do it.
Okay, so you want to recommend that we put in the rack cards into the purpose for the CDEC? Is that the motion that you want to make?
That they
Council
bring it
President
back
Starr.
to, yes, that they bring it back to council for consideration, and I had 2 more to add.
Okay, so so you want,
Do you want a motion to approve before she does that, or are you going to let her do that?
why don't you go ahead with this individual item, and then we'll work through the rest of the list. We're now, we're coming up on time. Yep.
Thank you. I'd like to also add into somewhere in this Appendix A that we have an annual work session between council and CDEC, so that we don't have to get to a place where we got last time, where that there's just an annual check-in. And I trust that we will have a member of the CDEC from here on out coming to council to report like the other committees do. But I think it should be written in here that there is calls for an annual work session with the committee. And then my final one.
I think we're all agreed on that. Anybody disagree?
No.
Okay.
And then my final one is and maybe it's already in here, but I didn't see it the way I wrote it. But I want to call for a specific item under number 4, that they work with the neighborhood associations on increasing engagement and participation.
I think it's
It's right here.
Where is it?
A, 4A.
No, that's
Yeah.
what they wanted to
Yeah,
add, they're gonna put it.
it's in there.
they're gonna
Perfect,
put it
then
in.
I'm happy,
Yeah.
let's vote.
Remember, they're gonna put it in the
Put
action plan.
a motion on the table.
Right.
Didn't you already do that?
No. I was
Okay.
never recognized.
I move.
No, I was trying to sort out.
Okay, where are we? Staff report. All right, are we ready?
Oh, yeah.
Give it a,
Well, wait a minute, I want to go back, sorry. I know, you guys, I just want to make sure that it says increasing participation in that appendix. To increase okay, we're good. Thank you. I'm happy.
on the
You got
neighbor
everything, Joe?
association?
No, I need a little clarification. So I ended up writing G as create a youth engagement plan for council consideration. Was there additional words that were important there?
No, create a proposed engagement plan focused on youth for council consideration.
Okay. And then what I did was I wrote down, there shall be an annual joint work session with council under the meetings
Oh, great.
section.
Perfect.
I wondered where that was going to go.
And then, but I still need a little help on make a rack card. Is that,
Develop content
yes,
specific to outreach and engagement
specific to,
for for an engagement and outreach rack card for council consideration. So basically, when my dream is fulfilled, we will have a rack card, right? That can be used anywhere for how to get involved in committees, how to get involved in making public testimony, how to,
Recruitment.
yep, all the things.
Yes,
No.
yes.
No.
You're supposed to.
Can I?
Counselor Christopher.
Thank you. Can I make, rather than say specific rack card, why don't we say promotional materials such as a rack card?
That's
And
even
just so you
better.
know what a rack card is,
Oh, sorry.
Travel Salem, all of the promotional, our Chamber of Commerce uses these 4x, yeah, exactly. That has. so-
Two-sided glossy color.
And all you have to.
Hand them out.
Here, wait a minute. I carry them. This is a rack card. So when anybody asks about Keizer Art Association, I have all the information on there along with a way to contact them. That's what a rack card is. But I think we should say, well, it's a recommendation to city council. We'd have to fund it. So, promotional materials such as a rack card. Is that okay, Joe?
Sure. I'm trying to, is it still promotional materials?
For recruitment purposes.
Yes, specific to outreach and engagement?
Yes.
Okay.
Where is that going?
That would be number 5 under purpose
Yeah, that's right. That's what she wanted.
for council consideration and approval.
So it's a separate one.
Yeah. Okay, we're out of time.
We're almost there.
I move another final.
No.
What? Do you have another change?
I was gonna say, I move for 15 minutes. We're out of time.
Yeah.
So I
Second.
move to extend the city council meeting for, okay, would you go for 5 minutes, Soraya?
What?
Soraya, we're at the preface. Let's
Fine,
be done.
5 minutes, 5 minutes, so
Okay,
300
I move to
seconds.
extend city council meeting for an additional 5 minutes for the purposes of getting this taken care of.
Second.
Moved and seconded to extend city council another 5 minutes. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed signify by saying no.
Okay. Make the motion.
Motion passes unanimously. We have the motion on the table, I believe.
We do?
Do you not?
No, we don't.
Okay.
I move to adopt resolution R2025, amending Community Diversity Engagement Committee and amending resolution R2021-3225.
As amended.
As amended.
Second.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council adopt Resolution R 2025, amending Community Diversity Engagement Committee, amending Resolution R 2021-3225, as amended. Discussion? So I've got 2 comments. One is, while I appreciate the enthusiasm about a particular task and not taking forward the tasks that were recommended by the CDEC to put them in the list, I don't think that that's an equitable move. But more importantly, that I am going to vote no, and this is why. I still believe that this committee needs to operate autonomously by being appointed to staggered 3-year terms, and that by making them appointments of the Keizer City Council, similar to the Volunteer Coordinating Committee, where they're representing specific city council positions, is not getting at the autonomous voice I believe this Community Diversity Engagement Committee was designed to do. So I will be voting no on those grounds. Anything further? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed signify by saying no.
No.
No. Motion passes 5-2. The noes are Kohler and Clark. So we are then,
Consent calendar?
No, we need to do H. The counselor
H.
liaison.
It's committee appointment.
And counselor liaison.
Okay.
so let's start off with the council liaison, because we have now adopted the resolution to make the council positions no longer voting and making one council liaison. The council liaison to the Community Diversity Engagement Committee. You want it, right? Because Councilor Cross, motion to approve,
So moved.
Second.
moved by Council President Starr, seconded by Councilor Christopher to appoint Councilor Cross as the liaison to the Community Diversity Engagement Committee. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed signify by saying no. Hearing no objection, Motion passes unanimously. Are you ready to do appointments tonight, or do we need to table this to the next meeting?
I have to table mine.
Table.
Let's table the CDEC appointments to the April, what day is it?
No, it's the 7th.
5, 6, 7. To April 7. Okay. And then items I, J, K, and L will need to be tabled to April 7.
You got 2 minutes if you do the consent calendar.
Thank you. Council President Starr, would you please put the consent, read the items on the consent calendar?
Okay, speed reading, here we go. Consent calendar for tonight reads, item A, approval of February 10th, 2025 work session minutes. Item B, approval of February 18th, 2025 regular session minutes. Item C, approval of February 24th, 2025 work session minutes. And item D, approval of the March 3rd, 2025 regular session minutes. Item E, authorizing the city manager to sign a letter of consent regarding Zeppeli Fiber transfer of franchise agreement.
Thank you. I'll be pulling A, B, and D for corrections. Does anybody, I have a reason to pull C or E? Council President Starr?
I move that we approve the consent calendar items C and E.
Second.
Consent calendars, items C and E have been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed signify by saying no. Motion passes unanimously, and we'll need to table the corrections for the next meeting. All right, we will meet then next week, March 24th, starting at 6 p.m. With the Keizer Community Fields for a work session, Monday, April 7th, 6 p.m. for regular session, and Monday, April 14th, we will have a joint work session with the neighborhood associations. The time is 9:20. We are adjourned.